All right, welcome to the program. So here is our goal. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to give you the roadmap and the accountability for you to be able to build a profitable agency business that's going to bring in $10,000 a month. This is the best model I've ever seen. And I've tried so many different types of agency models. And this one seems to be the best one that I found to work short term and more importantly, for the long term. I'm going to show you how that works and how you can implement this. All right. So just to set some expectations, this isn't a get rich quick type of business. Just like anything that's worth doing, it will take time and effort. You will face some roadblocks and friction points. So my goal is to remove as many friction points as possible. So that way you can get to the 10K goal as fast as possible. All right. Now everyone starts at different points, right? So some people are going to have more business experience, marketing experience. Some people are just completely starting from brand new, like they've never been an entrepreneur. And so my goal is to point you to the right direction for you to start from. So try to keep an open mind, even if you're seeing some of the information that you've already seen or have already learned from somewhere else. Going from 0 to 1 is probably the hardest thing, especially if you've never done this type of thing before. But once you hit your first customer and you're getting your next one and the next one, it will get a lot easier. I promise you that. And in the end, it will be so worth it. And just to give you some perspective, college is a 4-year commitment. All right. And I'm not sure what the cost is like right now, but when I went, it was $10,000 every year. So that's $40,000 that you're spending for 4 years, just so that you could potentially get a 50 to 80K job when you get out of college. And I have friends who went through college and they never even got a job that they wanted to. So that's just my point of saying that nothing is guaranteed. Now, I got my bachelor's degree and my MBA, so I'm not knocking on college, but I am just saying that there are a lot more things out there that requires a lot more upfront commitment. And even when you do them, there's not much guarantee. Same thing with investment properties. You're investing so much money, so much capital upfront, like 150, 200K plus. And the goal is to make more money than that, but still like you have to come up with a lot of capital for you to make this work. And it goes the same if you're trying to start a traditional brick and mortar business. You have to lease a location, you have to hire employee, deal with payroll and all kinds of things that come out of owning a traditional business. So the great thing about this business is that it's all digital and you don't have much overhead costs as you would with a traditional type of business. So again, like there is work upfront that needs to be done, but it does get easier after you set it up. What is the opportunity? We're going to work with local businesses and we're going to offer them simple AI automation systems that's going to help them grow their business or help them get more customers. All right. And we're going to set these systems at $200 to $500 a month. And then after that, we're going to implement it and we're going to keep getting recurring income from implementing these systems. But let me show you how things are like right now. Okay. So a lot of the current service providers or marketing agencies, what they're doing is they're handling marketing services like paid ads, social media management, SEO, web design, etc. And they're charging from $1,500 to $2,000 a month for these services. And the reason why they're having to charge so high is because there's labor involved, there's time involved, and because they're experts at it, that's why they're justifying the high price point. The problem with that is a lot of businesses just can't afford to keep them for the long term. So there's a high turnover rate, meaning like a lot of people have to cancel the service after 2 to 3 months. So right now the industry standard for a turn rate is 20 to 30% per year. This was the business model that I was running when I was doing my agency business in 2018. And I was able to get a lot of clients from that. And so in 2019, when COVID hit, a lot of my clients had to cancel my service because it was just too highly of a cost for them. And they just didn't know where they were going to go next as far as where they're going to want to put their money towards the business. But one thing I noticed was they were still continuing to pay me for the software that I was providing. So that was a realization that I had where I was like, why don't I just focus on providing high value software and not charge them so much so that they continue to pay me month after month. And that's why this business model is more superior than the traditional agency business. The reason is because if clients never leave you and they keep paying you $200, $300 a month, like electricity bill, then you're going to be able to build more trust. You're going to be able to stay with them longer and you can always upsell the high ticket services later on. But this is a long-term type of business that you could have for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you can decide to sell this business later if you want, because this is going to be a software-based business. And so your multiples are going to be a lot higher than if you were to just be selling a service-based type of business. So what kind of businesses will you be working with? We're going to primarily be working with service-based businesses that deal with appointments. So examples are barbershops, spas, wellness centers, cleaning company. And I'll include a full list in the course so you can see what kind of businesses that you want to work with and start talking to them. So what are we going to offer to these businesses? So you have to look at what they currently have in their business and then fill in the gaps. Our goal is to unlock more revenue and growth for that business. So some of the automation and AI systems that you could build are appointment booking, review request management, inbound calls that uses AI, missed call text back, and social media posting. And I've included a full list of all the different offers in the offer vault, so you can take a look at it, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel, just do what is already proven. Where are you going to find your first client? So the easiest and the fastest way to find your first client is to tap into your current network. The reason is because it's free. You likely already know a business owner that needs help with this, and people like to help people. So that's the first thing that we're going to do to get your first client. And then from there, we'll collect some case studies, and then we'll start getting more clients that are similar. Where are you going to find your next set of clients? My favorite options are Facebook ads, cold email outreach, and LinkedIn outreach. But if you feel comfortable with this, you can also do cold calling or attend local networking events. So I'm going to show you all the different options for lead generation, and you just have to choose the ones that you're comfortable with. I recommend sticking with just 1 or 2 lead generation methods. And the primary goal with this is to be consistent and to stick with it. All right, so what's the end game here? You want to be in a place where you will have so many reoccurring clients that even if you stop working, even if you stop doing freelancing or running ads, or even if you have to fire all of your employees, you still be making 5 to 6 figures a month from the previous effort that you put in. All right. So think about how many businesses out there just can't do this, right? And let's say you run a restaurant business. You have to continue to keep getting customers come through the door every single day, or else you're going to run out of business and you're going to have to file for bankruptcy. So the thing with this is once you get them as a client one time, they're going to continue to pay you month after month. And that's why you want to be all in on this type of business model where clients keep paying you month after month. Now, before we get into what kind of software we're going to be using to deliver on this service, I want to make a note, okay? AI is always going to be changing. Software is always going to be changing as well. And so we want to understand that tools don't really matter. What business owners want is result. So we got to focus on the result and the benefit that it provides for these businesses, okay? And so throughout the program, I'm going to teach you how to learn about the software in the fastest way possible. But you also want to learn how to do process mapping, which is something I'll show you. But this is the type of skill set that you'll need to have in order for you to be able to pick up on the types of software to use or what kind of systems that you'll need to create for these businesses. And it's also a lot easier to implement a new system than to try to update a current system. So let's say that a client is using 5 different software, right, in their business. Now you're gonna have to figure out like what each of the software does and then how they all come together. So it's just a lot easier if you just use one system that would do all those things, and that you could just implement that one system in their business. And the last point to this is simplicity scales, okay? Because all systems depend on each other. Whatever kind of system that you're building for your client or the systems that they already have, they're all going to depend on each other to keep the business running. And they will get complicated and they will break as you scale. So try to keep them simple from the start. So here's what we're going to use as part of our tool stacks. We're going to use Go High Level. And this is the secret sauce software for all agencies. It has all the functionalities that a small business would need all in one place. It's got CRM and pipeline. It got sales funnels, website, surveys and forms, email marketing, SMS, booking appointments, everything that a business would need to keep things running. And so instead of having to stitch together all the different types of software, you would just need this software. And the reason why we're going to use this as well is because it's very beginner friendly. It's easy for us to convey the value proposition because we're going to convey the value proposition as a system, not just as a software. And my favorite part about this software is that you can white label it, meaning that you can put your own logo to it and you can label it as your own software. And that's how we're going to be able to make recurring income, because then you can start charging for just this software on a monthly basis to the client. Now the cost will be around $300 to $500 a month, but later on I'll show you a way where you can get this for a cheaper price. High Level also has the AI capability. So it has conversation AI, which is the chatbot feature, workflow AI, reviews AI, content AI. So it doesn't just excel at the automation side of things. It also has great AI features that you could use for your service. Now, for some of the advanced automations and AI capabilities that High Level doesn't cover, we could use third-party tools like Zapier, Make, etc. But this is a super beginner-friendly type of software. So we're going to primarily be focusing on using this tool so that we could start making money with it. Now, I mentioned earlier that Go High Level is going to be pretty costly. So their very basic version is $97 a month. But if you're going to be an agency owner and you want unlimited sub accounts, it's going to be starting at $297 a month, all the way up to $497 a month. So if you don't want to pay the $297 a month, but you still want unlimited sub accounts, one thing that I could offer you is the sub accounts under my agency account. So we do have the agency license where it will be under our brand, but you will be able to get unlimited sub accounts for starting at $47 a month with a one-time $24 one-time fee. Or if you don't want any additional fees, then it's just going to be $97 a month. And again, you get all the features of the high level as well as unlimited sub accounts. So I wanted to give you that as an alternative option. If you want to use all of the go high level features, and if you want the unlimited sub accounts, but without having to pay the $297 or $497 a month. Okay, I'll put that link in the description so you can sign up for that. It will have our own branding, which is outreach, but you will be able to get unlimited sub accounts. And when you are ready to transfer over your own go high level account, you will be able to transfer all of the sub accounts when you are ready to pay for the high level $297 or $497 a month plan. It's pretty easy to transfer. Now, in order to be successful with this, you're going to have the right mindset. So you need to first level up who you are. Okay. If you want to make doctor or lawyer money, you will need to put in the dues. You will need to put in the work and the effort to make this work. This means that you do need to take action every single day, even if it's like small thing. You want to build a habit like brushing your teeth in the morning. And you also want to take imperfect action. All right. There's a book called Ready, Aim, Fire. If you're the type of person that likes to overthink and contemplate on things before taking action, I want you to read that book because it's going to help you take more action before you start overanalyzing things. Okay. That's been a problem for me. So that book has been super helpful. Now, I also want you to dedicate yourself to this process. Okay. I'm going to give you all the step-by-step, all the things that you'll need to do, but you're going to get distracted. There's going to be shiny objects that are going to come at you. And so I need you to be married to the process and just do it. It's going to be tempting for you to try other things that might seem like, oh, that's a better opportunity. But trust me when I say this does work, but you have to put in the work. You have to stay consistent. And so you got to remove all distraction. And lastly, I want you to fail fast. Okay. Especially if you've never done this type of business before, the goal is for you to experiment and figure out what works best for you. Okay. So think of yourself as a scientist. You might be running like different types of lead generation campaigns. And so you're going to have to test to see what kind of messages would get the most response from the prospect. So don't put your emotions. I know it's easier said than done, but try to remove a lot of the emotions out of the game and try to just focus on the objective side of things. So here's our weekly plan for the next 4 weeks. Week 1 will be setting up your business and doing your niche research. This is going to be super, super important because it's going to set the foundation for us to come up with the offer on the following week. So week 2 is going to be about setting up your MVP offer and doing all the tech setup. So you will be learning about the software and the different AI tools inside of the software. Now, if you're not super technical, it's okay. We do have plug and play systems, but I want you to try to learn these things. It's really easy to pick up. You're not having to do any kind of coding or anything, but there are some technical concepts that you might need to know about just so that like it'll be easier for you to understand how it would translate into business processes and flows. All right. But don't worry, I have everything laid out for you. So you're going to be able to pick it up pretty easily. And there's also a team that will help you set everything up with your software and be able to answer any kind of questions if you have any sort of like technical issues. I also have the offer vault that you can access to see what are the proven offers that a lot of businesses will be willing to pay for. So you don't have to come up with a brand new offer that no one has ever heard of. Just use these proven offers to start off. And then from there, you can make adjustments as you start getting more clients. Week 3 is going to be about setting up your sales machine. This is when we're going to start generating leads and start prospecting with potential clients. And so in that week, I want you to choose just 1 to 2 lead generation methods. I'm going to give you all the methods that are available, but I want you to choose just 1 or 2 that are going to be comfortable for you and that you're going to stick with. Okay. Because the key is consistency. So if you're going to just keep trying out different things, you're not going to stay consistent and you're not going to get the results that you want. And lastly, week 4 will be about launching your campaigns that you've set up in week 3. Our goal in week 4 is to start talking to them, start demoing the software and the system that you set up in week 2. And start trying to get your first client. All right, so feel free to rewatch this video. If you don't understand something, post in the community and I'll be able to answer your questions. But the next step will be for you to start week 1 and start getting things set up, okay? And be sure to check off the lessons as you go through them. And every lesson will have an action item or multiple action items. So I want you to check them off once you're done with each lesson. And if you have any questions, again, post in the community and I'll be able to get back to you. All right, let's get to work. All right, so in this video, I'm going to tell you why starting an agency business is a smart move, especially if you're a beginner. So it doesn't take any upfront cost for you to start. You can start with zero money, okay? There's zero risk, so only your time is required initially, and we're going to build systems around that, and we're also going to use AI so that you can start taking back more of your time as we start building this business. And this is the only business where you get to keep 100% of the profit. So again, zero upfront costs, zero risk, and you get to keep 100% of the profit. Now, I don't know any other business model that has that ability. So I want to tell you a little story about my experience. I started my entrepreneurship journey with e-commerce, specifically selling Amazon products through their Amazon private label program. And I spent tens and thousands of dollars buying these like art socks. And I didn't know if this was going to sell. It seemed like it was going to sell based on all of the time and the effort I spent on researching and seeing if this is something that people will want. And I didn't know there was uncertainty that I was actually going to sell these art socks. And so I spent a lot of money upfront to get socks from China. And I have to do marketing. I have to pay for someone to build my website, set up all my Amazon listings. And so there's so much financial risk. And again, it didn't work out. Maybe if I kept going at it, maybe if I spent more money, it probably would have. But at that point, I've already spent like over 20 grand on this venture. And I was just like, you know what? No, I don't think this is for me. I know a lot of people who are killing it with this Amazon e-commerce business model, but this wasn't for me. I wanted one where I have the minimal risk, less upfront costs in starting a business, and I also want to keep all of my profit. So with the agency business model, it's pretty simple. So all you're doing is finding clients and finding out what kind of services that they need. And this is where you're going to fill in that gap and you're going to assign them because you're going to help solve a problem for them. And so after that, you provide that service and you get paid. So the process for this business model is quite simple. Now, of course, there are a lot of caveats to this process. So that's what this course is going to be about. I'm going to tell you exactly how to go through every one of these steps in a simplest, effective way. But this is pretty much all you have to do to be successful in this business. And lastly, this is such a great beginner-friendly model because there's low barrier to entry. So you can get started immediately. And all you'll need is just a laptop and internet connection. Now, some people see this as a negative thing because they think that the market is going to be saturated. But with the types of services that we're going to be providing and with AI, you're already ahead of a lot of the other agencies and the services that they're providing. And so you're going to be able to beat out 99.9% of all the other agencies and the competition that's out there. There's also minimal risk. Again, very minimal financial loss if this doesn't work out for you. And this business model is scalable because we're going to be doing everything online and we're going to be standardizing a lot of the processes. And so whether you get 5 clients or 10 or 50 clients, we're going to put them through the same system. And so it's very scalable. And this is how you're going to be able to gain financial freedom. All right. So at this stage, it's really important for us to understand a few fundamental concepts when it comes to building a scalable business. And more specifically, what makes a service scalable? So let me tell you why it's important. All right, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. So the big picture goal for many of us here is to build a scalable business model where you help small businesses by implementing various AI systems and automations. So more specifically, and this was the goal that I had, and it might be your goal as well, but the goal is to build up some passive income, free up some spare time, spend time with your loved ones, and have some spare disposable income, whatever it may be, right? And the overall goal is to build that monthly recurring revenue, build up your additional income, and be able to help your clients all while doing so. So in order for us to achieve that goal, we first need to understand the services that we'll be offering. And more specifically, making sure that those specific services are actually scalable, meaning that we can actually grow them without them having to take up so much of our time and then us having to get caught up in that hamster wheel where we work with one client and then all of a sudden you're just stuck in fulfillment and you can't bring on more clients and then suddenly you're just stuck and your business can't grow. So we want to avoid all of that. So the point of this video is really to understand the 3 core concepts of what constitutes scalability when it comes to the specific services that you're going to be providing. So with that being said, the first core concept that you need to understand is that your service needs to have a strong demand, offer, and recurring revenue. So That needs to be something that people already know about and that there's already a demand for, meaning there's already a need for that service. People should actually be able to wrap their head around what that service is, and it doesn't require much education for you to sell that service. So the more you have to educate your prospects and your customers on what it is that you're actually offering, the more costly it's going to be able for you to do that, and harder it is for you to actually sell it. So we want to make sure that there's already a really strong demand in place and a really strong need for the services that you're offering. And in doing so, that leads me to the next point, which is short sales cycle. So we don't want to be in a position where we're reaching out to clients and then this is the first time that they're hearing about us or our business. And then it takes a year or 2 years for them to actually become a customer. We want to make that sales cycle as short as possible. So in an ideal world, from the point where someone hears about you and then knows about you and what you offer to potentially closing them as a client and then having them become a paid customer, it should just be within a few days. So that's the ideal goal here. And the next thing is recurring revenue. So you guys are going to hear me talk more about recurring revenue in this program because it is so freaking important. Recurring revenue is going to be the oxygen, the lifeblood of your business. Being able to have a business model and offer service where you could provide as an ongoing service where your clients and customers are paying you on a monthly basis every single month in a recurring way is going to be the foundation of scalability in your business. So I'm going to go into more details definitely later, but just understand the importance of recurring revenue when it comes to scalability. So the next factor here is having a high margins service. So this is meaning that your cost of fulfillment and actually delivering the service isn't going to be too high, where you're offering services at a certain price where your cost and expense for delivering those services are low enough to the point where you have a healthy profit margin. And typically speaking, we're going to be shooting for a target gross margin of 65% plus. Just know that this is where we're going to depend on AI and automation systems to be able to cut the cost down. And it's super, super important for us to have this wiggle room in space for us to take profit and potentially reinvest it into the growth of our own business. So that's potentially reinvesting into sales, marketing, maybe acquiring more customers, ultimately growing your business quicker, faster, and outpacing your competition. So the ultimate goal is to continuing to have those super high profit margin where, again, that's going to be the lifeblood, the oxygen of your business. And for all of us here, it's going to be the income that we'll be able to generate from the profit margins of the services that you're offering. And then finally, we want to offer a service that is high leverage. So what does it mean? It means that we want to be able to leverage AI and automation wherever possible. So again, this is where we want to be breaking from that time to value chain where we're not selling our time for money. We can do this by leveraging AI systems, automation systems, where we'll be focusing on providing access and assets instead of labor for our clients. So what I mean by that is in a traditional done-for-you agency model where you're basically trading time for money and you're basically doing a lot of custom work, where in this case, we're going to be focusing on services where we can pre-build a lot of the assets and systems that we're essentially selling access to. And in doing so, we can leverage software, we can leverage automation, AI, and other systems and assets that we've built and be able to do a lot of the legwork upfront. And then for each additional client or customer that we bring on, we're basically just adding on to the profit margin and then the overall growth and scalability of that business. So keep these three factors in mind. And as we go through it, think about the different services that we're going to be offering and just know that we want to match all three of these criteria. This is super, super important. All right, see you in the next. So in this video, we're going to be covering some of the core principles of a scalable business and some of the key mindset shifts that you guys are going to have to make when it comes to thinking like a business owner. So with that being said, the first mindset shift that we're going to have to make is going from selling time to selling value. We must break the time to value chain. Now, I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to have to drill this over and over again. This is the very fundamental key mindset shift that we need to make. So I want to help you change the way we think about selling our time for money. First of all, that's not where value truly comes from. We're actually going to be able to create value through pre-built systems that we're going to be providing access to. And so that's ultimately going to be the foundation of building a scalable business. Next mindset shift is thinking about providing custom work only to providing access and assets. Now, when I say custom services, I'm really talking about the traditional done for you agency type of service where you're providing a custom work for a client. So when we think of professional service providers like accountants, lawyers, you can see that those business models are very difficult to scale up because they're basically stuck on a hamster wheel, that time value chain. So I'm going to call this out. Professional services are a trap. You'll actually end up just having another job with multiple bosses. And so we don't want that. It's a very difficult chain to break. So as a business owner, we need to think a little bit differently. The way we approach our business model, again, is access to assets and access to the systems as opposed to trading our time for money. Next, we need to go from thinking of a mindset of, I can do that, to, is this scalable? It's very, very tempting, especially in the beginning of your business, when you're just trying to get your first few clients to basically satisfy your clients to whenever they ask you, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Right? And they want so many things from you. And it's going to be very tempting for you to say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that too. I can do everything. But in reality, if you start trying to compromise and start trying to do everything, you're actually going to be stuck on that hamster wheel of constantly just being stuck with fulfillment, being stuck with delivery of the service, and being stuck doing a lot of custom work. And so ultimately, that's what's going to be killing the scalability of your business. So we need to think no custom work, only building new systems. So if you're going to do the work, don't opt for doing custom work. Opt for building systems so that that system can be reused again and that processes within that system can be repeatable. So it is possible that maybe when a client makes a suggestion to you and that you're hearing that same suggestion from other clients as well. And maybe in that case, it might be worth a while to start thinking, okay, I'm hearing this a lot. And so can we actually create a new system for this kind of request that I'm getting a lot from these types of clients? So maybe you've identified a certain pain point that is very common in the marketplace where you're serving. And so in which case, it's totally fine to build out a new system for that. But remember, you have to avoid the temptation of doing custom work for each and every client whenever they request something new from you. So this is just a simple mindset shift that we have to go from, can I do this, to can I do this in a scalable way? All right, the next mindset shift that we need to make is going from more is more to less is more. Everything breaks when you scale. And so every successful scalable business do less so that things don't break as much. And remember, the more complexity that you put into the system, the more it's going to be easier to break. So this is kind of along the same lines as I was mentioning in the previous slides, where we can't just think from a mindset of, I can do everything for everyone. We need to be able to focus on who we're serving and what we're doing. And so the more focused we can be in what we're doing, the better of a job we can do at it. And ultimately, the bigger we can scale our business while providing amazing results for our clients, that's our ultimate goal. That's what we're working with. So again, shifting from the mindset of more is more to less is more. Now, I'm not saying that you should do less work or work less harder. I'm saying that the whole point of this mindset shift is to be more focused on what you do and not become the jack of all trades and just doing everything for everyone. All right. So again, less is more. So next, we're going to be making a mindset shift from depending on results to providing access, assets, and activities. So what I mean by that is don't have the value proposition of your business and your services be solely dependent on delivering one specific result. And if you can't achieve that result, then ultimately that value that you're providing is just not there, right? And so why would the client be paying for that? So we want to make sure that the value that we're offering is very much dependent on the assets that we're providing and then the access to those assets and then the specific activities that we're performing for them. So that way they can't just point to one specific result that we promise and then hinge our entire business to say, hey, I'm not achieving this result. And so therefore you're not doing your job. We want to be able to provide their whole structure to their system. So ultimately that system is going to help them achieve their results. But the value proposition of our business should not solely depend on that specific result. And like I mentioned here, you cannot and should not build their business for them. I still want you to get results for your clients, but it should not be dependent on just getting them the results. So hopefully this makes sense in that obviously we want to make sure that we're providing great results for our clients. But the mindset shift here is that we're not dependent on providing or promising one specific result. We're more providing the value by accessing the assets that we've built out. So you'll hear me say this a lot, but this is going to be the core principle and foundation of the scalability of your business. So the next mindset shift here is going from the customer is always right to the right customer is always right. And here, boundaries help create scalability. So we're going to have to define what is included within the services that we're providing and what's not included in the services that we're providing. And trust me when I say this, you're going to be in situations where your clients are going to be wanting to push those boundaries and they're going to be asking for more. And they're going to want to ask for services or things that are just outside the scope of what you're initially offering. And again, that goes back to one of our previous slides. In the way that we have to think about what the client is asking me, can that be done scalably? And you can't just assume that you have to do whatever the client is asking from you and that you have to do every single thing that they're asking you of and that they're always right. And you're also going to be speaking with a lot of prospects and a lot of leads where maybe you can help them in a lot of different ways and that they're really needing your help. But you really have to respect the boundaries that you've created within your business. And you have to make sure that you're super clear about those boundaries with your clients and that they should be respecting those boundaries. And this is really all about setting good expectations and being good at communicating with your clients. So as long as you set up those boundaries and that you're very good about communicating with your clients, then we should be pretty aligned with this mindset shift here. So these are just some of the core fundamentals of a scalable business and just some of the key mindset shifts that you need to make for being a business owner. And I want you to really think about all of these going into the rest of this program and when you're building your business. All right, see you in the next one. Now let's talk about what type of agency business that you could start. All right, so my recommendation is starting with your strengths. So first, find out what you're good at. Okay, everyone have different types of skill sets. And so the best thing to do is to turn that skill set into a service that you can provide for the businesses. That's the easiest way. All right. You can also do market research. You can see what other agency businesses are offering and you can try to replicate the process. For example, if you are really good at writing copy, you can be a copywriter and you can turn that into an agency service. And you could use AI to help you with the copywriting process so that you can take on more clients and AI is going to help you fulfill those services faster. So here's just some of the popular agency services that are out there. And just know that you can use AI for every one of these services. So that way your fulfillment gets easier. So we have social media management, graphic design, web design, email marketing, video editing. If you just want to provide AI-based services, you could do that too. So you could provide a service for AI receptionists. You could have an AI be an outbound caller for you. And this was one that I started out as doing marketing automation. So this is primarily helping businesses automate their entire marketing systems. You can also provide lead generation services like cold outreach or Facebook ads. There are so many types of agency services that you could offer. One pro tip is go to Upwork and look at the categories that they have. This is Upwork.com. This is a place where you can hire freelance workers and they have so many different categories. So let's just click on one of them. So if I click on sales and marketing, you can see here that there are different categories, different types of freelance workers offering their services. So some of the ones I've already mentioned in here, but you can take a look at all of the categories that they have. I would recommend starting with sales and marketing because the businesses can see a direct ROI that's associated with your service. But if you just want to, let's say, provide AI services, you can do that too. You can look at some of the categories that are in the AI space. All right, so if you're going to be selling AI services to businesses, then we need to first know about what AI is and how it relates to business, sales, and marketing. So what is artificial intelligence or AI? So imagine if you could create a super smart robot friend that could think like a human, learn new things incredibly fast, help solve tricky problems, and get better at tasks the more practices it has. So that's what AI is kind of like. It can understand a lot of information. It can make smart choices. It can learn from mistakes. And most importantly, and this is probably a little bit scary, but it could copy how human brains work. So why would businesses want AI? It's what I consider the ultimate efficiency machine. It can do boring, repetitive jobs super quickly. It works 24 hours, 7 days a week without getting tired. It doesn't need any benefits, or you don't have to deal with HR or anything like that. It makes fewer mistakes than human beings would, and it helps workers focus on more managerial or creative tasks. So, for example, at Amazon, AI sorts millions of packages every single day. It uses robots in giant warehouses to pick up items and pack them faster than hundreds of human being workers would. So, here are some benefits of AI in sales and marketing. So, it can predict what customers want before they even know it. It can talk to hundreds of people at the same time. It can create personalized messages for every individual, and it can help businesses make more money with less work. So let's drill into every one of those. So the first thing is predicting customer behavior. So think of AI like a mind reading detective that could look at past customer behavior, guess what kind of products they will want, and then create personalized recommendations. So this is helping businesses sell exactly what customers would want and love. So another example would be Amazon using AI to suggest products that you might want. So if you go to Amazon.com and you're logged in, you can see some of the products that are recommended to you based on what you've purchased in the past. So it's basically like trying to figure out what you're thinking that you might want next. So that's AI magic at work. That's how the AI at Amazon is able to help cross-sell different products. So you're going to keep wanting to buy different things because, for example, like if you bought running shoes, then they know that you're someone who's going to be starting to work out, starting to run. And so you might need other things like workout clothes or fitness trackers. So the second thing is scaling personalized customer communication. So think of it like a call center, right? Where you have hundreds of workers working at this one location that could answer customer questions instantly. Again, it can work 24/7 without getting tired. It can also speak in multiple languages, which is huge because if you hire a person, they might be bilingual, trilingual, right? But this AI would be able to speak in hundreds of languages. It will already know what languages to speak in. And lastly, it can provide personalized, friendly messages to people. So it's not just like your typical answer machine, or when you call some customer service line these days, you have some pre-recorded message. So now with AI, it can provide personalized conversations, and it's as if you're talking to a friend or a colleague. So an example is if you go to Sephora.com, there's a chat bot that helps customer find the perfect makeup by asking specific questions and then giving personalized recommendations. So it's basically like having a makeup expert in your pocket 24/7. The third thing is it can create high converting marketing messages. So think of it like a marketing wizard that could write personalized emails, create social media posts, and test out which messages work best. And ultimately, it can help businesses sound more human and friendly because a lot of the times people buy from other people, not just some brand or some business. So AI is ultimately helping these businesses become more personable and more human. The last thing is it can predict and maximize sales. So think of it like having a sales crystal ball that can predict which customer might want to buy something. It could estimate how much money a business would make. And it could also help sales team focus on best opportunities, right? Because you only have so much time. So you want to be focusing on what's going to be closest to the money. And lastly, AI can help reduce wasted time and effort. So all in all, AI is what I consider to be the ultimate efficiency machine that can help businesses sell smarter, faster, and more personally. All right, see you in the next one. All right, so to make your logo, we're going to use this free logo generator from Namecheap. All you're going to have to do is just put in your name, Easy AI Club. All right. They said they're going to be able to get it done under 5 minutes. So let's see if it will do that. I'm going to click allow. All right. Continue. Okay. So it's just going to ask me a couple of questions here based on the preference that I have. I like serif. I like modern, more bold, playful. Organic looks good. This is good. Then I want to get more of a yellow, red vibe. Continue. All right, so you can choose your 3 favorite icons. So I like something has to do with AI. So let's see if we have anything regarding AI. It's okay. Let's see, like robot. Okay, let's go ahead and choose this one. And then let's do easy. Let's see if they have something for easy. Ooh, okay. All right, I like this one. All right, so I'll just choose 2. And now it's going to help me come up with all the different options that I've chosen. Easy AI Club. Yep, they look good. Oh, I kind of like this one. I probably should have capitalized each word, but it's okay. This is just for the demo. So let's say that I do like this one. I'm going to click on it. It's going to ask me if I want to purchase the domain. I already have the domain purchased, so I don't need to do this. But I'm just going to click on download when it's done. And then from there, I'm going to have all the files for the logo all right here. All right. It's pretty simple. Shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to get everything set up. All right. See you in the next one. Welcome back, guys. So in this video, we're going to choose your business name and then register your domain name. Now, let me preface by saying that if you already have a business name and you already have the domain already set up, then you don't need to go over this video. You can just skip ahead. But if you don't already have these pieces in place, then this training is for you. So this is where we start getting into the implementation piece of it. So be sure to implement and follow along as we're going through all the steps. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So in terms of choosing your business name, I have a few tips and guidelines for you. All right, so the first tip is going to be to avoid hard to spell names. And the rule of thumb here is that you really shouldn't have to be having to explain how to spell the name when you're telling someone, right? And so example, you might be thinking about replacing an I or slightly misspelling something and having really long names that are just hard to spell out. So I want to give you an example. I ran an e-commerce store and it was called Archandise, and it was supposed to be like a combination of art and merchandise. But when I was picking out my domain, I made a spelling mistake. So you can see here, merchandise is spelled with the A, right? And I accidentally put E. So I was pretty much surprised, like when that domain was available. And then like I bought the domain and I got everything set up. And when I started marketing and started telling people about it, and they were like, oh, okay, how do you spell that? Because I couldn't find it. And I had to like let people know like, oh, it's with an E, like ARTCHENDISE.com, right? And yeah, it was pretty embarrassing, like the fact that I made that mistake. But yeah, from the get-go, try to choose a name that's going to be easy to spell, and let alone try not to make that mistake of misspelling it when you're choosing the domain name. All right, so my next tip here is to get the .com domain name. And the reason for that is that you want to really increase your perceived credibility. And a lot of the times, .com just sounds better. I know that there are all these new ones like .io, .ai, .so. If you can, try to go after the ones that have the word .com at the end. Also, a lot of people will just assume that your business has a .com with your domain. And so if they just hear the name of your business, they might just type in the name of your business and then put .com at the end if they want to look you up. So overall, there are a lot of reasons why you should want to choose the .com. And later in the video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can go about finding those domains. All right. My next tip here is to use a name that actually conveys a meaning. So you want your name to be intuitive and to reflect some of your value. So maybe it's a reflection of what you do, as a company. Maybe it's a reflection of who you serve. If we just look at some examples of some of the big popular company names, like Salesforce, for example, it's very intuitive. You know that they provide software that enables sales team to manage their entire sales process. If you look at ClickFunnels, for example, they're a software solution that builds funnels and generates more clicks. Another one is Close.com, right? They are a software that help you close more deals. Look at Shopify. They help people start online websites. With our name, Easy AI Club, the reason why I chose Easy AI was because I wanted to help people understand AI as easy as possible and for them to really like use AI tools to make money and to really live the type of life that they want to live. So that's why I chose the word Easy AI. There's so many other examples, but really the idea here is that if we take a step back and think about what we're doing here as AI agency owners, we're really helping our clients implement various AI systems and software solutions so that we could help them increase efficiency within their business, right? Help them save more time, help them grow their business, increase their profitability, right? So we might want to start thinking about some of the keywords that we can be using in the name of our business that would reflect some of the ideas and some of these values while also being intuitive. So the next tip here is that make sure that the name sounds good when you're saying it out loud. So apparently Jeff Bezos, when he was first thinking about the business Amazon, apparently one of the initial original ideas was that the name would be called Cadabra, like abracadabra. But apparently what was happening was that when he was telling his lawyer about it, they were hearing cadaver. So he had to keep correcting them. Even though they went with that name initially, Bezos decided to change it again. And this time it would be called Amazon, which I think a lot of people would argue was probably a better choice. So just some of the things to think about. And there are ways that maybe you can incorporate alliteration in your name. So if we think of companies like Coca-Cola, for example, the name rolls off the tongue really easily. We're using that alliteration with the same letter in the same sound between the different words. Or maybe you want to think about incorporating rhyming into the name. So when we think about names like StubHub or Jelly Belly, right? They're very memorable because there's some rhyming going on. So with that being said, my last point here for you guys is really not to overthink about this. I know that a lot of people spend way more time than they should be with this process. And so trying to think of a name to make sure it's perfect and just getting into that analysis paralysis, it's just not worth it. So my biggest advice here is do not overthink it. You can always change the name later on. The goal right now is to just choose a name and get this business started. It's definitely not the most important make or breaker in your business. I promise you, in the grand scheme of things, the name of your business isn't going to be the most important thing in all reality. So again, this process should not take you more than 20 minutes. Just start doing some brainstorming and just follow some of the basic guidelines and tips that I gave you, and we should be fine. All right. So with that being said, we could use this GPT to help you brainstorm some ideas. So open up the link that I'm going to give you, and then you're just going to tell it about your business. So for example, I teach people how to start an AI agency business. All right. Just let it know what you do, and it'll start giving you some names here. Okay. AI Novo, AI Genius, Biz, Atlas. Yeah, I would not choose that one. Summit, not bad. Okay, these are not bad, not bad. It's a good start. So I want to have the word easy, right? So I want to make AI easy for people. So that's one of my goals. So let's see what we would say. Brandable name, easy AI. There we go. So this was the name that I did ultimately choose, but yeah, there are other good ones. Simply AI, not bad. This might be a little bit difficult, right? Because some people might use the word I, but some people might use the word Y. So try to avoid that. Bright AI, that's okay. Easy AI, yeah, okay. Skill flow. Yeah, so go ahead and use this GPT to brainstorm some ideas. Once you have a few names picked out, let's go to lean domain search and see if that domain is available. So for example, if I like the word easy AI, I just put into this search bar, and then it will give me different domains that are available. So easy AI blog, easy AI world. All right, so I like this one here, just easy AI. So if I want to see if it's available, I just click .com, and then it says that it's available. So I can go ahead and purchase it. I would recommend buying it from places like Namecheap or Cloudflare. I usually buy all of my domains in Cloudflare just because they provide the extra protection with domains. So if you want to purchase it here, you would just come under domain registration, register domains, and then just search for the one that was available, justeasyai.com. All right. So I'm going to purchase it. And then you're just going to put in your contact info and payment information. And then when you're done with that, you just click purchase, and then you would own the domain. All right, see you in the next one. If you're going to be running a legitimate business, you're going to need a business email. So I recommend using Google Workspace to set up your business email. Now they have affordable options. So you have the starter, standard, plus, and enterprise plans. I recommend just going with the starter plan. I don't think you're going to need the other plans in the beginning, at least for now. If you use this link and this code, then you do get 10% off for the first year. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper than what's listed on here. So when you are ready to get started, you're just going to fill out your information, starting with the business name, how many employees you have, and then your region. So let's just put test, and then it's going to ask you for your name here and your address. So I would put your personal address here. So I'm just going to put test@aol.com. And then it's going to ask you whether you want to create a new domain or set up your existing domain. If you already purchased your domain, then you want to click set up using existing domain. So I'm going to click that. And then you're going to do a search of your domain. All right, so this is a section where you're going to connect your domain that already exists. So this is one of the domain that I already own, try outreach, and it's going to then ask you to set up the domain. Basically, what you want to do next is you want to create a username. So I recommend just putting your first name at yourdomain.com, and then you want to put in your passcode, check off this box, and then you. All right, when you're done with that, you're going to be taken to this page here, which is going to confirm the plan that you've chosen, and it's going to give you a 14-day free trial. Before you click this button, make sure to put in the promo code here. So I'm going to copy this, put that in here so that I could get an additional 10%. And then it's going to ask you to put in your name, address, and your payment method. And then when you're done, click agree and continue. All right, so when you're done with that, you're going to be taken to different onboarding steps so you could connect your domain. But if you did not see that, then what you can do is click on this icon here and go to admin. It's going to open up this window. And what you can do here is you can connect your domain, make sure that it gets verified so that you could activate the Gmail. Okay. Just follow the instructions. It's pretty simple. So all you'll have to do is just add some DNS records. And basically the way it works is wherever you purchased the domain from, you'll be able to add DNS records. For example, I purchased this domain using Cloudflare. And within this dashboard here under DNS, I can add new records. And so for Gmail specifically, it's going to tell you to add these ones. Obviously, these are going to be specific for me, but make sure to just add whatever they tell you to add. Okay. And then from there, once you're done with that, then you'll just have to verify the setup. And then when you're done, it will say verify and it will say Gmail activated. All right, hope that helped. All right, so this is where the rubber really hits the road. So for today's training and in the following videos, we're gonna get everything set up with the software, And really, this is going to be the implementation piece of this course. This is going to be the new system that we're going to set up that's going to allow you to generate that monthly recurring income where you're going to get paid every single month. And this software is a huge component of that. So the software we're going to be using is called High Level. It's a very complete, robust, all-in-one sales and marketing suite. You can see here that we're basically combining 15 plus different software tools into one cohesive software system. So that's basically going to allow you to automate everything that you need within your business. It can do so many different things, and this is going to help make your life and your client's life much easier. So what's beautiful about this software specifically? Well, it's really that it aggregates a lot of the different features and functionalities that you would need in the software. So you can see here, it's got CRM, it's got sales funnels, website builder, email marketing, SMS, courses, reputation, communities. I won't get into all of them, but there's a lot of different features and benefits that this software can provide. And for me, even just speaking from a personal experience and in my previous business, in order to do everything that this software can do, I was paying well over $5,000 a month, probably even closer to like 10 grand if you add up all the other functionalities. And this one software can do everything that I was paying thousands of dollars for. So you guys are getting a massive shortcut here just by being able to learn this one tool to help both grow your business and your client's business in one cohesive system. And you're going to have access to all of this, and you're going to have complete control over how everything works. And you can basically license this out to your client. So that's what we call sub accounts. And you can provide those sub accounts to your client and be able to upcharge them at whatever price that you like. This is one of those high leverage activities and knowledge that's going to help you build a very, very high income stream for yourself. It's going to make you extremely valuable in the marketplace, knowing how to do these things. And this software is going to be able to help you with that. So I'm excited. So this is where everything gets exciting. Let's strap in. This is going to be a super exciting journey. So on their main site, they give you a 14-day free trial, and it's just access to the software. But if you use my link, you're going to be able to get a 30-day free trial, and you're also going to get a one-on-one training and setup from their high-level team. So I recommend using this link so that you can get that 30-day free trial plus a free live bootcamp. This is basically where they have a dedicated support person that's going to be helping you get everything set up. So all you're going to have to do is just fill out the name of your company, the name, email, and phone number, and then just put your credit card on file. All right, that's pretty much it. And then they'll send you all the details to get you onboarded. All right, so that's basically it in terms of getting started with signing up for the software. In the next video, we'll go over how to actually start setting up the software, and I'll give you a full walkthrough of all the different features and functionalities of the software and how to navigate through everything. All right, guys, I'm super excited. This is really where the rubber meets the road, and we're really going to start getting our hands dirty with the software. So hopefully that process was clear. Make sure you go ahead and use the link to sign up and get your account set up. Please do not proceed until you've completed this step, and I will see you guys in the next video. This is what we call an agency dashboard. So you only see this as an agency owner, okay? Your clients won't be seeing this. So this is where you're going to be able to manage all of the different sub accounts. You'll be able to import and create snapshots, resell different services, a bunch of more, okay? So the way to differentiate between the agency dashboard and the sub dashboard is you'll see, if I click on this here, you'll see that these are going to be the accounts that are in this agency account, all right? So for example, if I go to this sub account here, which is the demo account, this is going to be the sub account dashboard. So this is what your client will have access to, okay? And then for you, you can jump in and out between the different sub accounts dashboards and basically see everything that they're seeing. And when you're ready to switch to an agency dashboard, then you just click on this here. Now, here are a few ways for you to get support. So the first is through the bootcamp. So if you use my link and you sign up for the bootcamp, you can go to the live bootcamp call. It happens every day at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So you spend about an hour with the team to get everything set up, including all of the software setup, okay? The other way is for you to book a one-on-one kickoff call. So I'll put the link in the description. It's basically a Zoom call where you'll have one of the high-level support team member who will get on a call with you, and then they'll help you get everything set up. Now, the other way is for you to click on this question mark icon on the top right-hand corner, and then you can start a Zoom call with them, or you can start a chat with them. I would say those are the best ways for you to get in front of someone, especially if you have an urgent issue. You can also raise a ticket, but I recommend just starting a quick chat or a Zoom call. All right. So the next step, we're going to start to white label this for your business. So what that means is we're basically going to use your own branding and domain. And so here's how we're going to get everything set up. All right. So first of all, I want to go through, there are two kinds of dashboards. So I already have most of my stuff set up, but I'm going to basically show you what you'll need to make sure to set up on. So we're going to go to settings, and then we're going to go to company. And then you want to make sure to have the company name, email. If you have the phone number, put it in here. You want your website to be in here, and then make sure to choose these categories and the niche thing, okay? So all the ones that are in red, those are going to be the required information. So make sure to have those in. And then here is where you can white label the domain. So right now, the domain is under app.gohighlevel.com. So if I want to use my own domain, then I can easily do it by just adding my own subdomain here. Now, to set that up is very, very simple. So all you have to do is add in your domain, and then in front of it, put the name, whatever name you want in front of it, and then end it with a period. So I recommend just using app.yourdomain.com. Okay, so something like that. You can do that. And when you're ready to add it, you'll just click on the button, and then it will show you exactly how to do that. Okay. Once you have your white label link set up, you can easily access the software using your white label link. So basically it will have your own branding. So you can see here, I have my logo, and then I'm using my own domain for the software. So it's going to look very professional because you have your own logo and you have your own domain for this software. You can also white label all of the domains that this software will produce. So what that means is, for example, if you have a calendar link, right now, if you don't white label it, it will say leadconnector.com/, right? But you can make it your own domain. So I would just put link.yourdomain.com. And then it's the same process, just connect it to your hosting site, and then you'll have the two domains white label, okay? Make sure to also have your logo here so that it changes here. Otherwise, the Go High Level logo will be the one that is going to be showing up on the top left, all right? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure to have the address and the time zone. This is super, super important because we want to make sure that it's the right time zone, or else all of the messaging and the emails, they're going to get messed up. So this is very applicable for not just the agency, but also each sub account. So when you're setting it up for your clients, make sure to put in the correct time zone. Otherwise, the automations, the emails, those are going to be triggering at the wrong time. You can leave the rest the way it is, but I would just copy what I have here and just check off the ones that you need to check off. All right. All right. We are now going to set up our phone. So I'm going to go down to settings under phone integration. It's going to give you two options. It's going to ask you if you want to use Lead Connector or Twilio. I recommend using Lead Connector because this is native to High Level, and you could use Twilio, but I found that it's pretty difficult to set up everything because you'll have to create a Twilio account, and then you have to bring over like some of the configurations from Twilio. It's just quite a mess. So I usually just stick with Lead Connector. Okay. So once you opt in to Lead Connector, you are pretty much good to go from there. And every new sub account that is being created, it's also going to use Lead Connector. So make sure this is enabled as well. All right. So when you're done setting this up, we're now going to purchase a phone number and help you get that phone number set up. So we're going to come over to one of the sub accounts, and then we're going to go to settings. Under phone numbers, we're going to purchase a phone number. So you can see here that I already have a phone number, and when you're ready to purchase a phone number, you just click add number, add phone number, and then it's going to do a search for the different numbers that are available. I usually like using the local number, but you can also do toll free. It's really up to you. You can also search for numbers that are in a specific area code. So I like 202 because that's where Washington, D.C. is, and that's where my business is located. So I do a search. Oh, you want to make sure that it's going to be the first part of the number. And these are all the Washington, D.C. phone numbers that I could purchase. Okay. Now, this is the next important thing. We have to get A2P compliant. This is basically a compliance thing within the United States where all numbers have to be approved if you want to send text messages. So the account doesn't have the A2P compliance, then you're not going to be able to send text messages. You will still be able to make phone calls, but you can't send text messages. So to get the approval for the A2P registration, we're going to come to Trust Center, and then we're just going to go through the process of filling in your business information. So just go through these steps. I also have a guide here that you can refer to. Make sure that all of the information is correct, or else they will reject it and you'll have to resubmit it again. Okay. So you'll have to make sure to do it for the brand as well as the campaign. Okay. So just go through the steps. It's pretty straightforward. Once you got those two things approved, then you'll be able to start sending out SMS texts. All right. It's time to set up your email. So we'll start with the agency setting. I'm going to go to setting, and I'm going to go to email services. So this is where we're going to set up a dedicated domain to send emails from. So you can see here, I've already have one set up. You can create multiple dedicated domains if you like. Basically, the way it works is you're going to click this, and then you're going to add a domain right here. And what you'll do is you'll have your root domain. So that could be gooutreach.com. And then the subdomain, you're going to add a subdomain in front of it, which would just be, you could say something like email and then put a period. So this is what we call a subdomain. You have a word here and then ending with a period and then your root domain. Okay. So when you're done with that, you're just going to click add and verify. And then what it's going to do is it's going to connect the DNS records. So we'll just click continue. And right now it's finding the provider details. I bought this domain from Cloudflare. It's automatically going to connect it to Cloudflare. All I have to do is click on authorize domain, and I have to first log into the Cloudflare first. So when I'm done logging in, so now it's going to ask me to authorize adding these DNS records. And all I have to do is click authorize, and then it'll get automatically added. And then I would just come back here, and you can also do it manually, of course, if it doesn't automatically do it. And once you're done with that, you'll verify it. And then when it's active, it'll say that the share IP is active and the SSL will be issued. Okay. So that's how we set up the dedicated domain. So now we're going to set up the emails for the sub account. So I'm now here in a sub account, and I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to come over to email services. So by default, whatever dedicated domain that you've set up in your agency account is going to be what shows up as a default provider. So what that means is if you have additional clients that you're bringing on, this will be the default provider unless they add their own dedicated domain. So keep that in mind, okay? So again, it's the same process. You're just going to add the dedicated domain here under the sub account. All right, so if we want to connect Gmail or Outlook, what we'll have to do is log in as a user. So right now I am an admin. You won't see this menu called My Profile. So I'm going to log in as a user. All right. So once you're logged in as a user, you'll see this new menu in the settings called My Profile. And what you'll be able to do is then connect your Gmail or Outlook. So under My Profile, you'll just click on, let's say you have Gmail, you just click on Gmail and then click Connect. And then it's going to ask you to connect to a Gmail account. And that's the same process for Outlook as well. All right, that is it for setting up your emails. All right, next up, we're going to add team members. So we come to settings under agency account, and we're going to come to team. And this is where you're going to have all of the users that are inside the software. So that includes your agency users as well as the sub account users. So sub accounts are going to be where your clients are. You'll be able to see all of those users in here as well. Now, I'm going to tell you about the different types of roles that we have as a user. So you have the agency type and the account type, okay? And then within the role, you have user, admin, and owner. There can only be one owner, and that's going to be the account that you set up when you sign up for the high-level software. And when you are adding admins, you can add admins for your agency, or you can add admins for specific accounts. So when you add agency admin accounts, those accounts can access all of the sub accounts that you'll have in your software. And then when you add account admin, those accounts are only going to have the admin access to a specific sub account. Okay, so let me give you an example. So I have my team member here who has access to all of the sub accounts. So if they need to troubleshoot within a specific client's account, then they can go in and they can do it. Okay. Now, if I go to account admins, those are typically going to be the admins for that specific sub account. So if you want to give your client an admin privilege, then you add them as account admin. So here's how you'll add a new user. You're just going to click on add employee. You're going to fill out their name, their email, phone number, all of that. So here's where you can update their roles and permissions, and you can give them agency access or you can give them account access. Now, you can also give them access to specific features of the account. So if let's say that I hired a website builder and I want to give them access to this specific sub account, but I don't want them to get access on anything else except for the website stuff. So I can turn all these off and just keep all the website stuff. So maybe I'll give them blogs, I'll turn these off, and then I'll give them access to funnels and medias. Okay. So that way, this person who's going to be going in to the account will only have access to these features and nothing else. All right, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions regarding users, roles, and permissions, then refer to the high-level support document, or you can get in touch with them via a Zoom call or a live chat. All right, see you in the next one. So one of the beautiful things about being in this group is that you don't really have to build out your websites, automations, emails, all of that. We've already done that work for you. So all you have to do is just import it, okay? So this is for if you have your own high-level agency account or the SaaS account, you can easily just import it into your account. So basically all you have to do is click into the link and then another window will open up and it will ask me if I want to import the snapshot. And then all I have to do is just click yes. And then from there, once you're done with that, then you will go into your sub account of where you want that snapshot to be installed into. So for example, if I want to add it into this account here, I would just click into it. And then I'm going to wait for this action menu up here on the top right-hand corner. And then I'll just click on no snapshot. And then you would just find that snapshot that was previously imported. Okay. That's pretty simple. Now, if you have an account with us, meaning if you have a sub account with us and you don't have the agency level account with high level, this snapshot would have already been installed for you inside of your account. So all of the website, emails, automations, all of that should already be in your sub account. All right. But if it isn't, feel free to reach out and we'll get that sorted out for you. All right. This is going to be a quick one. Once you are ready to publish your website or funnel, you're going to connect it to your domain. Okay. So to do that, we want to come to sites and then we want to click this gear icon up here. And we're going to add our domain in here. All right. So make sure that you have your domain purchased. And if you still need to purchase your domain, you can do it here, or you can use other sites like Namecheap or Cloudflare. All right. So I'm going to add my domain here, gooutreach.com. And then it's going to ask me if I also want to add the www. I'll say yes. And then I can add the records manually, or I can have it add automatically. So I purchased this domain on Cloudflare. So it's going to ask me to authorize the domain. So that way I don't have to manually add all of the DNS records. And it's going to look something like this. And all I have to do is just click authorize. And then once I do that, it's going to populate in this area here. So here is an example of when you have the domain added. You'll see that I have both the easyaiclub.com and www.easyaiclub.com. So both of them are linked. And if I want to change the default page, I can do that here. I can change it to any of the funnels that are in here. And the other part is the XML sitemap. You know, I wouldn't mess with it right now, but you can also update the sitemap in here as well. Okay. Other than that, you can also update the default for full page. You don't really need to, but you could update this if you want. And then you could add the robots.txt code. I don't know much about this, so I wouldn't mess with it. I would just leave it as is. All right. See you in the next one. All right. So I want to talk about how you can design your service packages and what you can start offering today. So as I mentioned in some of my other previous videos, there's so many services and things that you can actually offer to clients. And so just keep in mind that there may be some crossover with regards to specific functionalities for features or benefits. So there's pretty much an unlimited number of different combinations on ways that you can package your services and price. So over the course of this program, of course, I'm going to give you specific examples of ways that you can take some of these services and package them with the right pricing and start offering them. Just know that what we're offering and what we're showing you guys are just some of the examples. They're templates, the frameworks, the structures. You guys can treat them as a starting point. And then depending on the business and the clients that you're working with, you may want to restructure or repackage these offer in different ways. So keep that in mind in this video. I want to first go over some of the core principles that you guys should keep in mind when creating your different service packages. So with all of that in mind, there are a few core characteristics that each of your service packages should follow. And the first one here is having a single focus. So each service should solve a clearly defined problem. The second one is having a set price. So each service should have a set price. And the only way to really deviate from this is if you sign up for more services or have longer contracts with the client. So the pricing should be something that you display on your website so people can easily find it and know exactly what it is and what they're getting. There's transparency here, and we're pricing this in such a way that we're taking all of those factors in consideration. Pricing according to the target market, who the buyer is, what our services are, the value that we're adding. So we have a clear set price that is clearly defined. Next, we have set each deliverables for each service. Each service has specific set deliverables with defined boundaries. Anything out of this scope is either declined or you can bill it as additional work. So we want to make sure that our clients know that for that set price that they're paying, they know exactly what they're getting and also what they're not getting. So we're clearly defining those boundaries. And finally, for this last one, we're not trying to trade time for money. So services cannot be based on time value chain. We discussed this before and we'll discuss it again. The goal here is to create scalable business model. So in order to do that, we need to break the time value chain and to make sure that our services are not trading time for money. So please keep that in mind. There are a few key steps that we need to follow when we're creating our various service packages. So the first one here is to name it. I'm going to be giving you specific examples and services that you could start offering, and they're named in such a way that is universally recognizable. But in order for you to have success with it, I challenge you to make it unique to yourself. Maybe you want to change the name of the different services that you're offering or the different packages based on your own business, your own values. Maybe it depends on what your theme is and who you're serving. So come up with unique names that differentiates your business and services from everyone else on the market so that you're not compared to anyone else. You don't want to come off as a commodity. What you have is unique, it's proprietary, and it's your own making. So next, you want to describe your service by a single purpose, exactly what it does and what the outcome is that is being achieved by your service. Next, you want to define exactly what is being offered with your service, along with defining what is not being offered. So again, we're setting those boundaries and from defining what is actually going to happen. And if the client wants something outside of that boundary, then you want to bill them the extra amount for something that is excess or outside the scope. And you want to define exactly what happens when they want to do that. And this last step here is to price it. So again, there are going to be some key factors that come into play when we're thinking about pricing, which we've touched on a little bit before. We'll continue to touch on those factors throughout the duration of the program. But we want to keep our ideal target customer and our target buyer in mind. So we want to remember that we're targeting the systems buyer that is in the middle segment of the market. So those are going to be the individuals who need help with the system. And they have some money to spend on this. They don't have a ton of time and they need someone to implement a relatively customized system for them. And it's going to be done in a scalable way. We'll also touch on a few factors that come into play on how we actually price our services. So if you go to the Offer Vault section of this program, I'm going to give you some examples of specific packages that you could start offering right away. And these are services that a lot of other agencies are offering, but our unique spin on this is we're going to automate a lot of the processes and we're going to use AI to help us with fulfillment as well. So the last thing I want to leave you guys is with this quote from Elon Musk. He says that you get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of the problem that you're solving. So the more value you bring to the table, to the clients that you serve, the more value you're going to be able to generate for yourself in the form of income, in the form of earning potential, in the form of freedom. So the more that you can increase your expertise, the more that you can actually implement what you're learning and execute everything that we're teaching in this program, the more value you're going to be able to generate for your clients. And the more value you'll ultimately generate for yourself, which ultimately is going to amount to the increase in how much you're getting paid. So the way that this relates to maybe your pricing when you're thinking about your service packages is in the beginning, you might want to start out by offering your services at a slightly lower introductory rate just because you're just getting started. But the more experience that you gain, the more you become an expert in that field, in the service that you're providing, and the people that you're providing it to, the more value you're going to be able to add, and therefore, the more you're going to be able to charge. That's when you'll be able to increase your prices and you'll be able to offer even more value. So hopefully this all makes sense. Just be sure to keep these different characteristics and principles in mind as we think about how we're going to structure our different service packages. And if you go to the Offer Vault section, I'm going to be providing you with some specific examples of ways in which you can get started on some of the service packages that we recommend. But again, everything is just a starting point. So feel free to create your own, name it the way you want it to, and make it unique. You can take certain elements of the different services and package them in different ways, price them in a different way. It's really your business, so you're free to package it however you like. Ultimately, you want to make it your own, and this is going to be what leads you to your success. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, you might have heard the phrase, the richest are in the niches. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to pick your perfect niche. All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, I'm going to tell you why this is one of the most important decisions that you'll need to make in your business. And then we're going to cover the one thing you'll need to know before picking the perfect niche. Then I'm going to give you the proven framework for when you are picking your niche. And then I'll also give you some examples on some of the easy and difficult niches so that you have a pretty good idea of which ones to go after and which ones to avoid. And then we'll go over where to find the niche data. So basically this data would have all the information about the business, including the contact information so that you can reach the decision maker. And then lastly, when you are deciding to make a switch in the niche, I'll tell you when you should do it and when you should not. All right, let's dive right in. All right, so choosing your niche is probably one of the most important decisions you can make. Here's why. In one of my other videos, I talked about how it's so easy to start an agency and it's beginner friendly. So one of the problems about having such a low barrier to entry is you're going to have a lot of competitors. Working with a specific niche helps set yourself apart from your competitors. Here's why. The longer you work in a specific niche, the more you'll understand it. And so this depth of knowledge will help you get better results for your clients, which means more clients for them, more money for you, and more referrals. You're also going to be able to speak their language, which also means that you're going to be able to become their go-to expert, and that's going to allow you to charge for more. So think about this. Would a surgeon make more money than a general doctor? The answer is yes, of course. Why? Because they're specialized. And lastly, this is probably the most important thing. It's going to help you productize your business. So how we're going to do that is we're going to build it once and we're going to replicate it using snapshots for each of the clients, which means that you don't need to start from scratch for every new client coming in. And that's how you're going to be able to scale your business. So for example, if you're building websites for contractors, you're going to be able to know exactly what the purpose of their website is, right? So with contractors, they want more booked estimates. They want people reaching out to them for their contracting services. So I know that when we put their phone number on the top of the website in large, it helps them. It also helps them when we put a form up top, nice and large. And I know what kind of verbiage to use on the contact form. And I also know how to build the layout of the website. So you want to be able to build everything just once and replicates the funnels, the workflows, websites, etc. for each client, right? So all you have to do is figure out the systems, the workflows, and text messages, emails one time, and use that for all of your client. So for example, when you sign on a chiropractor, and then a law firm, and then a carpet cleaner, and then a plumber, then every time you bring on new client into your business, you're having to redo their entire workflow. And so contractors go to people's homes and do estimates. Whereas for dentists, people come to the office. That's a different type of workflow, right? So every automation, every text message is going to be different for each business. And what you're going to have to do is just rebuild that for everyone. So that's why you want to productize and pick one niche. So what works better is, let's say that you pick kitchen remodeler. And let's say that you understand that they have to go to the person's property to make an assessment and then give them an estimate. Now on the website, you would know how to speak as a kitchen remodeler, and then you would know what to say in, let's say, the emails and the text messages. If you see for one kitchen remodeling company that the funnel, the workflow, and the things that work well for that specific company, you can also cross-pollinate and then take that and implement it for another company. For example, when we added appointment booking, we added literally just a calendar in a funnel for clients. And when we did that for one client, it was working so well. So guess what? I implemented it for a bunch of other clients. I told the client, hey, we already have this process. This system that we built out, can we just plug it into your business? So again, this allows you to productize your business as best as possible. And it's relatively copy and paste. Of course, there are some small tweaks and you'll want to make it as closely as possible to the business itself, but you don't have to start from scratch. And you don't have to ask clients a bunch of questions about their business. Now, I'm going to tell you the one thing that you need to know before picking your perfect niche. And that is, if you are just starting out, you shouldn't niche down just yet. Most people don't know what type of businesses they're going to like working with. And one of the biggest reasons why I say you shouldn't niche down yet is because people, when they're first starting out, they really don't understand or know what type of businesses that they like to work with. And a lot of the times this will happen when you're just coming into the digital marketing world and you'll start your agency, you'll start working with clients, and then you'll start to see what you'll like. And you'll find that you'll like working with the construction industry a lot more than, let's say, you are with chiropractors, right? Knowing the differences between white collar and blue collar will help you understand which ones you might gravitate towards the most. So with white collar niches, you're typically going after working with doctors, attorneys, accountants, anybody that typically has to go to school or get some kind of specialized training. Now with blue collar niches, these guys are going to be a lot easier to get on board. They're going to be easier for you to be able to get them results. They're going to be a lot more mellow, a lot more straightforward, and be direct with you. Because these are typically folks who are very hardworking. They've had their businesses for years. They've probably built everything from scratch. And so these folks are going to be a lot easier to work with, a lot easier to get results for. And so you have to decide what most resonates with you. You might find that working with a blue collar business owner like roofer might not be the type of client that you want to be working with. So maybe you might resonate more with working with accountants. And so this is just an example for me to tell you that you might not want to niche down completely right away. And what you want to do is try out 2 to 3 different niches, more than likely within the particular industry. And so that's where you're going to be able to get the best types of results, feedback, and data. And then you'll be able to figure out, oh, hey, I enjoy working with this type of niche, this type of business. And then you can go ahead and start niching down. So again, if you are just starting out, I do not recommend niching out. So again, if you are just starting out, I do not recommend niching down. I recommend working with at least 2 to 3 different types of niches so that you can get a better understanding and then be able to select which one you resonate with the most when you start getting more and more clients. There is no perfect niche because every niche has the good and bad. So for example, in my experience, I've worked with solar businesses and it's relatively easy to get appointments with them, but they're really hard to work with. Most of them have sales background, and so they can see that you're trying to sell them something. And so they give you a pretty hard time when you're trying to pitch them a solution. They're also pretty impatient, and it's just wasn't a good time trying to work with them. I also worked with lawyers. Now, they are harder to get in front of because they're usually very busy, but they do have the money. And when you have an AI solution that would help their business, then you can charge for more money. Now, plumbers and roofers, these people could benefit from your services the most because they're just typically like a one-man person. They're usually out on the job and they're usually very busy, but you need to be able to speak their language. You can't confuse them. You need to get to the point and you need to let them know why your AI solution makes most sense for them without using all of the technical jargons. So my recommendation with this is play to who you are and your competitive advantage. So what I mean by that is, so let's say that you worked in sales in a roofing business. So then you want to go after roofing businesses because you understand the business quite well. Let's say you take a lot of dance classes, then maybe you want to work with dance studios. And it doesn't have to be hard. You're actually talking to a lot of business owners all the time. For example, if you go get a haircut, right, you're seeing the barber. And a lot of the times the barber is the business owner. Let's say you get your haircut every 2 weeks. And so you're seeing how that business works. And so it's pretty easy for you to get a good understanding of the business just by paying for their service and using them. Go ahead and think about what kind of businesses you're constantly in contact with and then make a list of them. Those are going to be the types of businesses that you probably know really, really well. And so you can start to see what kind of gaps and what kind of shortcomings that they have within their business. And that's where you're going to come in and you're going to be able to implement systems that are going to fill in those gaps so that they're able to make more money or save money. So one of the things you should try to understand is industries, niches, and sub-niches. Because within the industry, so when we look at the different industries, these are going to be the top level industries like healthcare, home services, legal, real estate, construction, entertainment, automotive, and then there's a bunch of other industries, right? But for the most part, this is the type of business that we're going to be targeting in the local space. Now, look at the right-hand side over here. When you see that the industry is at the top and it goes down to niche and sub-niche, and then sub-niche. And so within the industry, we have specific niches. In the healthcare space, we have pain doctors, chiropractor, dentists, right? And so these are the types of businesses we can target. And then we can go to sub-niches. That's where we can get even more specific. Let's say we want to go after cosmetic dentists, which is going to be very specific already. And it's a specific. Let's say we wanted to go after cosmetic dentists, which is very specific and it's a very precise type of clients. So it's under the healthcare industry and it's under the niche of dentists. And then the sub niche is cosmetic dentists. So this is the best way for us to target different businesses by going after very specific services or sub niches. So instead of targeting just all of the attorneys or any attorneys that are out there, we say, hey, let's focus on divorce attorneys. And let's say with real estate, instead of focusing on agents, we can work with real estate investors. We can work with mortgage brokers, right? So in the home services industry, we can work with clients that work with chimney repair, kitchen remodel, home remodel, landscaping. And then in the automotive space, we can work with car dealers, auto body shops, mechanics, right? So understanding the hierarchy here, where we have different industries, we have a specific niche under that industry, and then we have the sub niche where we can work with specific businesses like cosmetic dentists, divorce attorneys, right? Or real estate investors. That's when you're able to really differentiate yourself and be able to set yourself apart from the competition. So let's look at the easy, moderate, and difficult niches. So these are going to be some of the easiest niches to target: accountants, dentists, personal trainers, insurance, appliance repairs. Anything that revolves around the local space that is easy for us to get results for. And then you have the moderate niches that are going to be like pain doctors, attorneys, massage therapists, etc. So just think about at each level of difficulty, the level of sophistication increases. So for example, when someone that has a appliance repair company, mold removal company, or construction company, they're going to be easy to get results for because their business is pretty straightforward. Now, the reason why these are easy niches is because the services that they provide are super easy to understand. As far as being able to get them new leads, new opportunities, it's pretty straightforward. So let's say someone is looking for a personal trainer, right? They can immediately get that person on a call, have that person come in for a free trial, and then same thing with appliance repair. Someone is looking to get their appliance fixed, right? It's pretty straightforward. For the moderate niches, this is typically where you're going to have longer sales cycles. Like for example, with real estate, it's fairly easy to generate leads for these guys. However, the sales cycle is pretty long. Let's say someone is looking to buy a home. They may not actually want to buy the house for 3, 4, 6 months down the road. And so as these niches become more difficult, that's where you're going to have longer sales cycles, higher levels of sophistications. So when we go into the difficult niches, we have coaches, course creators, e-commerce. This is where you're going to have to really understand sales funnels very, very well. It takes somebody that really understands and knows how to create these specific types of funnels in order to get them results. And so what we want to do is we want to go after the easy or the moderate niches because we're able to sign them on very quickly and then be able to get them results in their business. You'll find that a lot of the home service businesses are some of the easiest to work with and are easiest to sign on as clients and get results for, because oftentimes these people are already looking for these types of services. So for example, you can do advertising for them, and that's the best way to be able to get these guys results very, very quickly because we're able to put ads in front of people that are looking for their kind of service. So with that all being said, how do we actually go about choosing a niche? So I want you to consider these things. First is if they actually group together. When you are thinking about working with someone in that niche, are they actually raising their hand and saying, yes, I belong in this group or niche, right? So earlier we talked about industries. Maybe you want to work within the healthcare industry, right? Maybe within that healthcare industry, maybe you want to work with a dentist. So a dentist would raise their hand and say, yes, I am a dentist. But they might not raise their hand and say, yes, I am in healthcare industry. So they would probably associate themselves as a subgroup within that larger industry. And we call that niche. All right, so this next one is very, very important. You've got to consider if they actually have the ability to invest in the services that you're going to be offering. So a big indicator of this is understanding what the lifetime value of the customers or clients of your potential niche is. And when I say lifetime value, I'm meaning what does your client's customer actually pay them, right? Do they actually have a high ticket product or service? So let's try to compare two different businesses. Maybe one of them is a florist and their typical average order value may be relatively small in comparison to a practice, as opposed to maybe a plastic surgeon where their average value of the customer is much, much higher. So you want to be thinking about this when it comes to something like, if I can help my clients bring on a few more of their customers, then I can add significant more amount of value as opposed to maybe a type of client that has low ticket product or service. So it is going to be much, much easier for you if you're working with clients that actually have the ability to invest and the budget to work with you and pay you on a monthly basis. So definitely keep that in mind. It's super important. The next thing to consider is if there are enough of them. Now, while it is important to be specific in who you're targeting, I recommend doing a bit of a market research to see what the market size is and how many businesses are out there. So that's how you're going to be able to see if this niche will actually support the growth and scalability of your business. We do want to be specific in the niche that we're targeting, but not too specific or not pick a niche where there's not enough businesses to work with. All right, so the next one to consider is if there are industry associations within your particular niche. This is pretty important because, again, this is an indication of if they group together. If they raise their hand and say that they are in a particular group, it's going to be much easier for you to identify them and then potentially getting out in front of those people. So what I would recommend is joining these types of groups if you can. And so it's going to be the best way for you to get in front of the people in your target market. And this is a very high leverage way to do that. You could potentially figure this out by going on LinkedIn and maybe type in the name of your industry and seeing if there are potential associations that pop up, different groups that pop up. And you could do the same thing within Facebook. And then you can even join these groups. So for example, I'm on Facebook right now and I can just search for dentists and I would just filter by groups. And you can see here that there are so many different types of groups that I could join that are specifically for dentists, networking for dentists in California, dentists and dental folks, right? And some of these groups have thousands of members. Like this one has over 11,000 members, right? This one has over 49,000 members, right? So try to join these groups and you can then get in front of these dentists who are also business owners. Those are potentially going to be the people that could become your clients. All right, let's get back. So this next one is figuring out if they have periodic events in which they come together. So this can be achieved by doing a little bit of Googling in the name of your niche, see if any events pop up. And again, this is another high leverage way that you could see if there are digital events or in-person events. And these could be ones that you could potentially be joining, doing a bit of networking, and then getting out in front of the people in a very high leverage way. So this last one, in my opinion, is probably the most important one because you want to make sure that you have some level of understanding about that niche and also if you like that niche. These are going to be the businesses that you're going to be working with day in and day out. So you want to make sure that it's something that you're actually interested in. And if you have a background in this space, maybe you worked in this industry before, this is going to really give you a leg up when it comes to understanding how that business works. This is going to help you be relatable to them when you're speaking their tribal language. And that's going to be the key point here. So definitely keep that in mind and start thinking, okay, what have I done in the past? Who do I know? Who am I interested in? When you're picking a niche that is well aligned with what you're interested in or your background or your experience, it's going to be much, much easier for you to be able to work with the business owners that are in that space. So with that all being said, we've actually gone ahead and done a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of creating a list of niche ideas that match almost, if not all of the criteria. So we've included them in here. I'll be sure to link this resource in the description. But if you go ahead and look into it, I believe we have about 150 different niche ideas and examples. And again, I mentioned almost all of the niches on this list are going to match pretty much all of the criteria that I've outlined in the previous slide. So what I would recommend is spending a bit of time going through this list and figuring out which ones resonate with you, which ones that you're interested in or have a background or affinity in, and maybe some experience, and then make a short list, maybe highlighting some of the ones that you're really interested in, and then ultimately just narrowing that down to one or two options that you think will make the most sense for you. So do your research, do your Googling, look up stuff, go to Facebook groups, look up LinkedIn, look up the different groups there are out there and join them, figure out the market sizes of the industry, figure out how many businesses in that niche are out there. And assuming that you picked a niche that checks out and match all of the criteria, let's go ahead and commit to that niche. So hopefully this was helpful in providing a little bit of light in terms of picking a niche. I will see you guys in the next video. All right, in this video, we're going to be discussing how you guys can offer websites as a service. I truly believe this is absolutely a wonderful service to start offering to your clients for a number of reasons. All right, let's get into it. So why sell websites? First of all, every business needs one. Every business owner that you talk to are aware that they need a website. So it's really hard to argue about this. It's essentially a hub for a business's online presence and identity. is the first place that people go to when they first look up a business online. It's basically the epicenter of what the business is doing online. It's really only a piece of internet that you really own and have full control over. So you may hear some people say, hey, I don't really need a website. I have my Facebook page. I have my Instagram page, right? But the reality of the fact is that they have no ownership over those profiles and those pages. I've seen so many people get their social media accounts shut down for one reason or another, and you're absolutely at the whim of those companies. They'll let you have a profile on their platform. And then if for whatever reason at any given time, they can decide to shut down your account or make changes to the platform. And so there's always a chance that you no longer have access to that profile. So it's super important that a business has their own website that they actually have control over. So as I mentioned, the website is typically going to be the first thing that people look up when they first want to learn about a business. So for example, if you're talking to someone and they want to look you up, the first thing they're going to do is go to your website to learn more about your products or services, right? To learn about who you are, about your business, and so on. And so it's super important to have one. So your first impression matters, and the website provides that first impression presence. And so having a good website provides a first good impression when you're online. The next thing, and this is super important, a website can act as a foundation for client acquisition. So this is great for us because we can offer websites as a foot in the door offer. And when you set up an amazing high converting website that ties into a more robust, complete system, we can also tie it into some of the other services that we can easily upsell once you have a website built for someone. So it's a perfect segue to lead them into maybe some of the other services that we can offer as well. The next thing is that websites are fast and easy to deliver. So the beauty of the software system that we're working with is that there's a very robust website builder in there, and it's super quick and easy to actually build out all these websites. You can do it based on templates specific to your industries. You can build it with AI, and all you'll have to do is really just swap out a few images and some text and some logos, and you'll be able to deliver a fully built out website in a very short span of time. Another amazing thing about this is that we can actually structure our packages and pricing in such a way that we can offer very attractive prices that will allow us to have a really high margin. And then finally, this is also really amazing. Website clients typically stay with you for a long time. So website clients are very sticky, and they almost will always view this as a utility bill. So think of the last time that you switched up your internet provider or, your electricity power provider. Not very often, right? And you're paying that bill every single month. You don't really even think about it. So it's really the same ways that your website clients view the bills, with a monthly subscription that they're willing to pay for to access to their website. And so it's basically just like a utility bill. They're going to be paying for it months after months, year after year. They know that they really need that website, and they're not going to be thinking twice about whether they should stop paying you or switch over to somewhere else. So overall, websites are a really attractive service that you could offer to your clients from their perspective and from the perspective of you as a business owner. So with all that in mind, let's dive into the value proposition here. First of all, 40% of SMBs, small to medium-sized businesses, don't have a website at all. So there's a large segment of the market that's out there that are operating their business and they don't even have a website. And also 95% of those people that actually have a website are basically just having a static billboard on a web and not really a system for attracting new clients or new customers. And so the one big distinction you should know is that some people think that having a good website is just about looking pretty. But one of the primary purposes of a website is actually the capturing of leads and converting them into new customers. And so think about it. A large segment of the market first doesn't even have a website, and the ones that do don't have a website that actually is supposed to capture leads and convert them into clients. So this is where we come in and add value, right? So here's the value proposition. We're going to say our conversion optimized website attracts more customers to your business, which serves as a foundation of an X attraction system designed specifically for your industry. Now, we call it X attraction system. We want to make this a unique name because it's going to be your unique proprietary system. So it could be client attraction system. It could be patient attraction system. So we just want to make that name unique. Now, your website is going to be the first place that your prospects and customers go. You now will have a system for capitalizing the first impression that your website will make to anyone who's looking up your business. Otherwise, you're going to risk losing business to your competitors. What we'll do is we'll set up an entire system for you fast and start helping you capture more customers for a monthly fee. This is where we can let them know that it's not an expensive project or there's no slow design process involved. So you guys might be familiar with the website design, website creation industry, that in general, these service providers are offering it at a really expensive kind of upfront fee, like $10,000, $50,000 for the website project. And then the design process is also really slow. And so the amount of time that it takes for this project to really get executed and get delivered, it's sometimes painstakingly slow. So throughout the process that we're teaching you here, you're going to be able to turn around these websites very, very fast in a matter of days, not weeks, not months. And we're switching up our pricing structure so that rather than charging a huge amount upfront, we're splitting that into monthly fees. We're splitting that up into flat monthly fees. With the flat monthly fee model, we can offer it at a really attractive price point. And again, this would be a high profit margin play for us. And so overall, just note that when you're comparing this service with what the industry is currently doing, what we're offering here is a very attractive value proposition for a lot of the customers and the clients that we're going to be working with. So moving on to how we're going to package it. Number one, we're going to create a website for you based on proven best practices in the industry. Customized feed. This site will be optimized with systems to attract, capture, and convert prospects into opportunities. We'll also optimize it for search engine rankings so that when someone is Googling your business, you're going to be the first one to show up. We'll also host it, update it, and maintain it for you. We'll give you access to a CMS so you can make updates to the content. So if you're not familiar with the term CMS, that just means content management. In other words, a website builder. So this is actually something that you can give your clients access to the website builder. So that way they can go in and they can make tweaks and updates whenever they want. And this service will start as low as $97 to $297 a month. So with this, I would probably recommend charging some form of upfront fee. So maybe in the range of $500 to $1,000 upfront, especially when you're first just getting started. This upfront fee is going to help with you getting some cash upfront. And then from there, there's going to be some ongoing maintenance fee or hosting fee, somewhere between the range of $97 to $297 a month. So again, as I mentioned in the previous videos, the amount that you're going to be able to charge is going to be dependent on the number of factors. Like for example, the type of clients that you're going to be serving. And some clients are going to have a higher budget. They might have a higher lifetime value client. And in addition, I mentioned a lot that when it comes down to how much value you're adding, it really comes down to the experience. It really comes down to your experience, your expertise, your body of work. So the more that you know, the more that you start practicing with this, the more experience you'll get, the more case studies you'll get. And then from there, you're going to be able to create a kind of portfolio that's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to charge higher price points. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to fulfill this service in a fast, easy way. All right, we're going to go to this AI automation software and we're going to create a website within just a few seconds. So we can start from scratch, but we can also choose from thousands of templates that they already have. For example, if I type in plumbing, I can already see that there are plumbing websites that I can deploy for the client. And you can see here, all of the layouts, all of the colors, all of them are already built out. I just have to update the text, right? I can also use AI so that it comes up with a fully built out website with all the text in it. All right. So here's how it works. I'm just going to choose to put in the name of the company. Let's just say Plumbing Bros. And I'm going to pick an industry, which is plumber. And I'm going to use it so that it generates more leads and it's going to be a persuasive one. All right. Let's see what it comes back with. So check this out. This AI has built me a full-blown website, all right? And all of the copies have already been written out. And I can always choose to update the images because they're not super relevant. But again, look at all of the colorings, all of the layouts, it's been built out for you, right? Even the testimonial section, right? And the FAQs. So once I make a few changes to this website, I can provide this website for this plumbing business that doesn't have a website. Think about how much value you're already providing. So all in all, I think offering websites as a service is an amazing service for you to offer. And I've given you so many reasons in this video. I just wanted to give you a high level overview of what this service is, how it works, and then give you some guidelines on how to price it, how to package it. So hopefully this was helpful and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, so one of the specific service packages that you guys can offer right away is called Virtual Receptionist Service. So at a high level, the virtual receptionist service includes us implementing a system for our clients that we're working with to capture the callers that are calling their business automatically via voice or SMS. So the goal is to engage with those opportunities and get them to schedule an appointment or potentially convert them into happy paying clients and customers. So the way we do this is by leveraging the AI voice agent and the conversation AI functionality within the software. So basically, we set up a smart number for our client's business. And whenever someone calls that number, the AI is going to pick up that call. Or if the person is texting that number, then the AI agent will also be able to text back in real time and be able to respond to any of the messages that are being sent to them. We'll also be able to set up various automations on the back end to automatically engage with them as well. So we can set up sequences to either reactivate them, recapture them. And again, this is ultimately helping our clients turn opportunities into more business by leveraging AI and automation. So this is an awesome service for us to provide because it's relatively quick and easy to set up. We'll be able to generate and provide quick wins for our clients that we're working with. And most importantly, there's a great disproportionate amount of value that we're offering and providing for our clients in relative to how long or how much work it takes to actually fulfill on this service. All right, let's look at some statistics here. So we can see here that according to a study done in cooperation with Google, 68% of phone calls to small businesses go unanswered. That means that there's a lot of revenue being left on the table. So just think about that. So if you guys ever tried to call a business and it was during their work hours, but you aren't able to get a hold of them, it could be pretty frustrating, right? And sometimes you want to reach them even after the business hours. So a lot of the time, you probably won't end up working with that business if you aren't able to get in touch with them. So that's the same concept that's going on here. If you look at the stats here, 68% of the phones go unanswered. So that's a huge amount of opportunity that's being left on the table. So we can come in here and implement this simple system for them and help them recapture a lot of those opportunities. Also, research shows that waiting just 5 minutes to respond to a lead will reduce the likelihood of that lead by a factor of 10x. So this is the concept of speed to lead. So the faster that you can get in contact with the lead, there's a much likelihood that they're actually going to be able to do business with you. And 75% of customers actually skip leaving a voicemail. So they won't even give you an opportunity under normal circumstances to actually get in touch with them. So what that means is if that person calls you and you miss that call and they don't leave a voicemail, they're pretty much gone forever. And then you have here, roughly 85% of the people whose calls that you miss don't call you back. So once they're gone forever. And about 70% of the people will stop dealing with a company whose customer service is weak. And more than 60% of them will go on to do business with a rival company. So not only are these businesses losing out on potential customers, those potential customers are actually going to be doing business with their competitors and their rivals. So this is even a bigger pain point for those businesses that are not only losing out on their business, but they're losing them to the competitors. And that's a huge pain point. Also, according to one survey, 67% of customers cite bad service as a reason for churn. And so if you're not familiar with the concept of churn, it basically just means that your customer will drop off and stop doing business with you. So with all that being said, here's going to be our value proposition. So we're going to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, statistics show that if you aren't able to help a potential prospect, you lose them as a client. And so, in this economy and in this day and age, you really can't afford not to have a system in place and lose out on all of these opportunities and these potential customers. So with the virtual receptionist service, we can connect with those potential customers who are calling you automatically and immediately to get them engaged with your business. And this is extremely critical, especially if you're running on a leaner staff. And you're probably not going to be available all the time. You're busy, you're running your business, you're wearing multiple hats, and you'll most likely just focus on providing amazing services and products that you actually don't have the time to be available to answer these calls. Probably especially during outside of the business hours and on weekends. There are so many people calling you, trying to get in touch with you, and the companies that are accessible ultimately win more business. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and set up this entire system for you and start helping you capture more of those opportunities. And so guys, this is basically the value proposition and the pitch in a nutshell. And you can see here that it's really a valuable value proposition. And it's the kind that's really hard to argue and hard to deny. So moving on to packaging. So this is going to be how we're going to package our service.
we'll say, so what we'll do is we'll set you up with your own smart number. And then from there, we're going to use our proprietary campaigns customized just for you. So guys, these campaigns are going to be basically the snapshots that we pre-built and provide for you. So we'll go over all of those different automations and workflows later in the program, but just know that the majority of that is already pre-built and ready to go for you guys. We'll also give you access to the desktop and mobile system so you can manage conversations anywhere and anytime. So this is basically referring to the universal inbox that is in the software. So I'll speak about it again, but this is such a huge value add that you guys are offering to your client. They probably have so many communications across different channels, and being able to consolidate all of their communication channels into just one platform that they and their team can access anywhere. That's another massive value add. And the service starts as just $97 a month. Now, again, guys, this is just going to be purely a guideline. You guys are free to price it and package it however you want. Different packages could include certain bundles of messages and calls. And then from there, you can delineate the packages. So if they need additional messages, they could potentially upgrade to a higher package and so on. Just know that everything you see here is totally customizable. And I highly urge you guys to make this unique to yourself, all the way from naming to pricing and to packaging. So what I provided for you here is just an idea. It's a starting point and you're free to use this however you want. But again, I highly urge you guys to customize it, make it your own, make it unique, because this is going to ultimately increase your chances of success with all of this. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to set up an AI agent, and we're going to focus specifically on the voice agent, but the conversation agent is also very similar. All right, let's get into it. So what we're going to do is create a voice AI agent, and you can create as many agents as you want. So we're going to create a new one. I'm going to name this one Dentist Receptionist AI. Okay. And the business name, we'll call it Smile Club. All right. And then we're able to choose different types of voices. I will keep Samantha's voice for now. And then you can choose between inbound call and outbound call. Outbound call is being developed right now, so we'll just pick inbound call. And then for the initial message of the agent, we're going to update the name to Smile Club. Next up, we can choose to collect the contact information. Okay, so we could choose to collect name, email, address, and contact issue. We can also have it trigger a workflow, which basically means that after the call, it can trigger an automation, which is really powerful. You could also receive email notification to any of the people that you choose. And then we can choose to have it be linked to a phone number. And you can also set the working hours of the agent. I could say they are available Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then I'm going to save this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to test this agent out. So let me put my phone number in and we're going to have it tested out.
Hey, you have reached Smile Club. How can I help you today?
Hey, can I make an appointment for teeth cleaning?
I can help with that. Or could you please tell me your name?
San?
Just to make sure I've got it right, your name is B-A-N. Is that correct?
No, it's San, S-A-N.
Got it. Your name is F-A-N. Thanks for clarifying. Could you please provide your email address so we can contact you?
443-123-5678.
It seems like you might be giving me a phone number. Could you confirm if that's correct, or if you'd like to provide your email address instead?
Oh, sorry about that. I mean, the email address is san@aol.com.
Thanks for that. Just to confirm, your email address is fan@aol.com. Is that right?
Yep.
Great. A team member will reach out to you soon to schedule your teeth cleaning appointment. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
No, that's it.
All right, Sam. Thanks for calling Smile Club. We'll be in touch soon. Have a great day.
Thanks. Yeah, overall, the call went great. The AI handled the call really well. And this is going to be a game changer because there's no more need for a human being to take that call, that initial call from people. So hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about some of the other services that you guys can offer. All right. So in this video and in the following videos, we're going to be covering how to get clients, and more specifically, how to get clients by implementing a scalable outreach system. All right, let's get right into it. So there are typically two approaches when it comes to your outreach. The first is going to be the manual approach, and the second is the automated approach. Now, there are pros and cons to each of the approaches, which I'll cover in a little bit. Both work. However, I do want to note that automation will allow you to scale and gather data quickly and easily. And also, for most of you here in this program, you're probably going to want to focus on the automated approach to outreach, and I'll cover why in a second. So when it comes to manual outreach, here are some pros and cons. So some of the pros are going to be that there is little to no additional investment required. It can also be a more personalized approach when you're sending out the messages. But the cons here are that it can be quite time intensive. I know that a lot of you in the program don't have a lot of spare time to allocate to spending on outreach. So doing some manual outreach could work in the very beginning, but if you are looking to really scale, it can get pretty time intensive. And with that, ultimately, in the long run, it may not be the most scalable approach. Now, on the flip side of that is our automated approach to outreach. The pros are that it will require much less time on a daily basis. Once we have all of our systems set up, it's going to be much more scalable. So if you're in this program and you want to learn about AI and automation, I assume that you are the type of person that wants to scale this thing to generate a significant amount of monthly recurring revenue. So the automated approach is going to be the vehicle that's going to allow you to do that. Now, in terms of cons here, and to be quite transparent, it is going to require additional investment. And so in either case, you are going to be paying with something, whether you're paying with your time or paying with an additional investment. Now, we're not talking anything too massive or too huge of an investment here when you're comparing the cost and the benefit of how much time you'll be saving versus how much money you'll need to put into this. Well, in my opinion, it makes so much more sense to implement this automated system. Another con is that in relative to doing manual one-on-one outreach, the automated approach could be considered less personalized than the manual approach. Now, we are going to cover ways where you can implement a good amount of personalization, even if you're doing automation, because we're going to be using AI, but I wanted to just highlight some of the pros and cons here. So in either case, whether you're implementing the manual approach or the automated approach, how you're going to find those clients is going to be relatively similar. So the first place I would look at when you're trying to find clients is absolutely going to be to leverage your personal network. So think about who you might know. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, a colleague, a friend of a friend, right? Someone in your personal network that you may know that you could potentially reach out and start doing business with. These are going to be the people that you know. These are going to be people who potentially already like you, trust you. They're going to be the ones most likely to be willing to give you a shot and start doing business with you. So I would say that that's the lowest hanging fruit that you'll have. And so these are going to be the group of people that you should absolutely start with in terms of the first people to reach out and start doing business with. From there, the next category of businesses that you may want to consider looking is to contact the businesses in your local area. So similar to the businesses that you might already have some kind of personal connection with, businesses in your local area also share something in common with you. So at the very least, you know that you're located in the same area. And so there's a certain level of trust knowing that you guys are from the same geographic area. And maybe you've been a customer of this business. Maybe you already like their products and services. Maybe you already know about their business pretty deeply. And so you can make some suggestions or add some value in that way. So I would say that's definitely another way that you could find and get in touch with businesses that you share something in common with. From there, you have Google. That's going to be your best friend. You can absolutely find businesses on Google based on search terms. So you can search for terms that are within your niche. Another great resource is taking advantage of directory sites. So maybe you want to look at sites like Yelp. If you're in the real estate space, you might want to look at sites like Zillow. You could look at Thumbtack if you're in the home services space. And so there are so many more, but directory sites provide a targeted way for you to reach out to a lot of the businesses that are in the specific niche or industry. And so definitely consider taking advantage of some of those directory sites. And finally, you can absolutely find businesses on social media. So a lot of the businesses these days are going to have some kind of social media presence. So whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, whatever it may be, you need to start thinking about what is my niche, what is my industry, and where do they hang out online. Maybe it could be a school community that they hang out at or a Facebook group, right? So you want to start asking yourself, how can I potentially get into the mind of my target customer and look for them where they're spending their time online? And throughout these training videos, I'm going to provide some specific tools and processes for you to be able to prospect at scale. But in broad strokes, these are going to be some of the primary ways that you guys can go and actually start finding businesses in your target market. So with that in mind, for the sake of this program, these trainings we're going to primarily focus on will be implementing scalable outreach systems. We have a few basic steps, and these steps are going to be around prospecting and actually finding the businesses in your target market. So the process overview for the automated approach is going to follow a few simple steps. And step one is going to be prospecting. So actually finding businesses in your target market. Step two is going to be scraping. So when I say scraping, what I mean is basically taking whatever publicly available information is out there and then using certain tools to actually collect and gather that contact information for certain businesses based on certain criteria that we've set. And then what we're going to do is export that information onto a spreadsheet file. And then from there, step three is going to be validating. So what we're going to do is take that data that we've actually scraped from step two, and then taking that contact information like emails and phone numbers, and then running them through a specific tool to validate those emails to make sure that they're actually active so that we can potentially reduce the number of bounce emails. And the reason why we want to do that is so that we can protect our sending reputation and ultimately prevent our emails from landing in spam folder. So step four is going to be copywriting. If you're not familiar with the term copywriting, it's basically just a fancy word for the text of your sales and marketing message. So it's what we're actually saying in our outreach messages when we're actually reaching out to our prospective clients. And then step five is going to be putting all the pieces together and actually implementing and launching our automation system. So with all these steps, depending on what tool that we're actually using, these steps can actually be combined because one tool can actually do them all. And so I'll tell you exactly what that tool is and how to use it in later videos. I also want to highlight why automation is going to be super important and absolutely be the key to success when it comes to getting clients and really scaling your business model. So first, I mentioned this before, but it's going to save you massive amount of time. Basically, we can load up a lot of the work up front, do the majority of the setup process ahead of time. And then once we set up our automation system, we can essentially run this like a machine that's going to be running in the background like clockwork. It's going to be reaching out to people in your target market, your prospective clients, day in and day out. So whether you're doing it manually or not, I know a lot of you out there have a lot of things going on in your lives, whether it's your day job or family life or some other commitment. You're not going to be able to carve out the time necessary to do your outreach manually every single day and be consistent with it. I promise you that. I tried it. And so by leveraging automation, we can save you a lot of time. The next thing is by leveraging automation, we can contact a much higher volume of business owners. So at the end of the day, you get out what your outreach produces. What I mean by that is the more people you can reach out to, the more opens you're going to have, the more replies you're going to have, and then ultimately more clients. And so by leveraging automation, we can really scale up the number of business owners that we're actually getting in contact with. So next, we're going to be able to guarantee consistency even on days when you're busy with other responsibilities. So consistency is going to be one of the most important factors when it comes to your success here. And as I mentioned, maybe you don't have time to carve out a couple of hours to do outreach every single day and be consistent with that. So by having an automated system in place, we can guarantee that consistency every single day. The next point here is that our follow-up messages are actually baked into the system. So this is really, really important because the more that we can follow up, the more that we can stay on top of mind and the more that we can increase our chances of having our open rates to be higher, having our reply rates to be higher, and all the downstream metrics, which are going to ultimately allow us to, again, close more clients and make more money. So one thing I've noticed in my experience is when you're reaching out to a lot of people, I noticed that they actually don't respond to me until like my third, fourth, or fifth follow-up. And so it's important to be doing those follow-ups. There's a saying, right? The fortune is in the follow-up. So by having an automated system in place that does the follow-up for you, it's super important that we're leveraging all the capabilities. And the follow-ups need to happen whether we're doing it manually or automatically. All right. So this next one is super important. Setting up this automated outreach system is going to give you the experience of setting up your own systems. It's going to help increase your confidence as an AI automation agency owner. And what you're doing is you're getting your hands dirty. Setting up a lot of these systems and software tools, you're going to have a much deeper understanding of how the process works. And really, like I said, it's about increasing your confidence so that you know what you're doing and it can come across that way when you're talking to clients. And then you have this last one here, which is pretty awesome because not only the system is going to help you get more clients, this system in itself can be something that you could get paid to implement for your own clients. So by doing this form of automated outreach, when you're speaking with prospective clients and they're telling you that they're struggling with lead generations or client acquisitions, and that's a huge pain point for them, maybe you can set up this system for them. And so this system in itself can be something that you could get paid to implement for them, which is a huge, massive value out here. So this is something that you want to invest your time in really learning and understanding how to implement this yourself. So for the sake of this training, make sure you're in front of your computer, make sure you're in a quiet place and be ready to take notes, write down your questions, write down what you're learning, because the next set of trainings are going to be very, very important. And I'm very excited to share all of this with you guys.
Now, there are two types of outbound audiences. The first one is cold, where we're contacting people who don't know us. And then warm is where you're contacting people who do know you. Those are going to be people in your network, your friends list, etc. Now, the two types of campaigns that we're going to be talking about are cold email and LinkedIn. We're going to talk about knowing which one to pick really quickly. So for cold email, we might choose it if our market isn't as active on LinkedIn. So businesses like local service providers, people like HVAC owners, plumbers, painters, etc., are usually more easily accessible via email than they would be on LinkedIn. However, on the flip side, we would choose LinkedIn if our target market is more corporate or professional. What I mean by that would be decision makers that work for bigger corporations, VPs of sales, VPs of marketing, IT departments, consultants, etc. Those folks tend to have stronger email filters on their emails. So it's going to be a lot harder for your email to land their inbox. However, they do tend to be more active on LinkedIn. So it will make more sense for us to go down that road of LinkedIn to contact those types of people. Now, you might be wondering, well, what about using both? Now, we suggest you only pick one to start because we're going to be able to pick both once we've maximized the effectiveness of one. What we want to do is minimize the variables that would need tweaking as you iterate the messaging and the campaigns. So you can leverage both to maximize the exposure and the results after you land your marketing message on one. Okay. So in the later videos, we're going to break down both cold email and LinkedIn. So I'll see you in the next video. All right. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we're going to set up our automated outreach system for email. Okay. So in my previous video, I talked about the 5 different steps that you have to go through: prospecting, scraping, validating, copywriting, and automation in order for you to set up the automated outreach process. So we're going to use this tool called Instantly AI. And this is going to be the tool that is going to help us do all of the different things that are mentioned in these steps here. Okay. There are a lot of tools out there that you could use to do outreach. I found that this software is the one place where you could get everything done. So you can get started for free. And the way that they work is they basically give you unlimited email accounts for you to warm up inside of Instantly. And then they also have a section where you can get the leads, where you don't need to go to other databases or hire someone to scrape leads for you. So if you're just starting out, you would probably just need the growth plan
But when you are ready to start scaling and start uploading more people to reach out to, then you can start getting into the higher packages. All right. So let's log in and let me show you how to get everything set up. So let me first give you an overview of what the technical setup looks like. So we have to first buy domains and then create accounts within those domains. And the reason why we want to do that is because we don't want to use our main domain to send out cold emails, because at some point there's a chance that your account might get flagged. And when your account gets flagged, your domain also gets impacted. And so we want to basically create what we call burner domains, so that we're going to be sending out emails through those email accounts that are linked to those domains. Now, we're also going to have to set up SPF, DKIM, DMARC. Don't worry, these are pretty simple to do. And then you're also going to have to set up custom tracking and then set up your forwarding to the main domain. All right. These are the steps that you need to take when you are trying to set up the cold email account on your own. Now, what Instantly does is it basically helps you create all of those processes automatically. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over to email accounts, and I'm going to start by clicking new. And so if you already have the emails already set up, then you can just connect to the existing accounts. You can connect to Gmail, Outlook, and if you have some other providers, you can do it through IMAP or SMTP. All right. But they have this done for you email setup, which makes it super, super easy for you to be able to get everything set up. So basically the way it works is they will buy the domains for you on your behalf, and then they will automatically set up all of the things that are needed. So everything that is mentioned in the technical setup here, they'll be able to do all of that for you automatically. I'll have this in the description so that you can go through it yourself if that's something that you rather do yourself. But I truly recommend for you to go through with the done for you email setup, especially if you are just starting out. All right. So the way it works is we're going to click on this, and then what it's going to do is it's going to ask me to either type in the new domain that I want to create, or I can also search from existing domain. So I'll start with the new domain. If the domain that I want to create should have the word Easy AI in it, it will suggest different domains that I could purchase. So you have Work Easy AI, Global Easy AI, right? And I can also filter it based on if it has .com, .co, or .org. So I mostly want to use .com, so I'm going to uncheck the other two, and then I'm going to have these options, okay? So let's just say that I am good with all of these domains. I can also search for more if I want to, all right? And then let's just say that I like these ones here. So now I have 5 domains. And the total cost of buying those 5 domains is going to be $75. So basically, the way it works is they charge you $15 for the domain, and this is at an annual price. So you get to keep this domain for the entire year. So that's usually along the line of what other domain providers also charges. They're really not making a lot of money from this. So I recommend just going through this process here instead of having to buy it through places like Namecheap or GoDaddy or some other places like that. Okay. So let's just say that I want to pick 5 domains that I want to purchase. So $75. And then the next thing that we're going to do is create the email accounts. So normally you'll have to create email accounts on your own separately from where you bought the domain, right? So for example, if you wanted to create Gmail accounts, like G Suite accounts, then you'll have to sign up through G Suite separately. But here, this process makes it easy for you to also get the emails directly from this portal here. So first, we're going to create the forwarding domain. So this will be to your main domain. My main domain is easyaiclub.com. So that's the main one. And then this is going to be the name that I use to create my email account. And then I'm just going to put my name. And then it's going to ask you if you want to create the emails for all of the domains that we're going to be purchasing. Let's just say yes. So add. So it's going to create all of the Gmail accounts based on all the domains that I purchased. And the price for that is $5 a month. So this is also along the same lines of if you were to buy it through G Suite, it's also around the same price. I think it's $6 right now if you buy it through G Suite. So it's actually a little bit cheaper. So the domain annual price is going to be $75, and then the $25 would be for the emails. So now I would just pay $100 to get everything set up, and they're going to create all of the accounts for me. They're also going to set up all of the DNS propagations. Everything's going to be set up in one place. So this is where I truly recommend, instead of having to like set everything up yourself, which could take hours, I would just recommend going through this process. And once I place order, then I'm going to be able to see all of my domains in the account section. So now once you have your domains purchased and your emails accounts set up, we're now going to create a campaign. So I'm going to come over to the campaign area, and then I'm going to create a new campaign. So we'll call this cold outreach, and then we can say this is a AI offer. All right. So I'm going to click continue. So let's first add some leads into the system. So I'm going to click add leads. Now I can either add through CSV upload, I can enter them manually, or I can use Google Sheets. Or if I don't have any leads to upload, I can also use the system inside of Instantly to find leads. And it's super easy. All you're going to do is just simply search for the avatar of who you're looking to get in front of. So let's say that I want to work with executive coaches that have at least 10 employees. It's going to basically just search for that criteria, and then it's going to show me all of the people that are in that space. So you can see here, executive coach, PwC, US Veteran Affairs, IBM. You can also see the email that they're associated with. So obviously, like, this is not perfect yet, and I want to refine it further. So you could say, I don't want companies that have over 10,000 people inside of the company. So now it's going to filter that down even further. So now we're now getting into the small business realm. So, all right, let's just say that I am good with this list. If I want to just select this page, which will have 25 records, I can export just 25. Or if I want to export all 4,653 leads, then I can do that. And I can also automatically add them to the campaign that I have. So let's go ahead and upload the first 25 emails. So what I'm going to do is select this, and then I'm going to add to a campaign, and then we're going to select our campaign here. Make sure this is checked off. And then if you want to enable evergreen, which basically means when there are new leads that fit the criteria based on your search, then it will continuously add those leads into the campaign. So for now, I just want to add those 25 leads. So I'm going to click add to campaign. So now we have those leads added. I'm going to open it up. And then if I go to the leads tab, now I have all of their information, their email, the names, the company they work for, their website, title, their social media profiles, and some other information that are going to come in handy later when we're trying to personalize. And it's also verifying all of the emails to make sure that they are valid emails. So that way your email account is protected. And so that's ultimately what we want. It's going to do all of that for me automatically. So now I'll come over to the sequences, and then these are going to be the different emails that are going to be sent out at a interval that you set. So let's set up our first one here. So in my other video, I talk about how you're going to be able to write the messages that are going to be for sending cold emails. You can also refer to the template examples so that you can write your messages. All right. So what I'm going to do now is just copy over what I have in the template. And so this would be my first email. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to format it like this. And then I'm going to basically just put spacing and turn these into paragraphs. Next, we have these placeholder values. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace them with an actual variable. So I'm going to delete the first name, and then I'm going to come over to where it says variables. And then I just have to match where it says first name, okay? And then industry, same thing. I'm going to click variable, and then we'll go click industry. And then with signature, we're just going to replace that with the signature here. And lastly, we're just going to add their first name in the subject line. So this makes it more personalized when they're reading the email. So just going to paste that in here. All right. So now we're good with the first email. We're going to now add a next step for the next set of emails. So the first email is going to get sent out, and then basically we can set up different rules. So what this says is the second email will get sent out after 1 day. We can leave the subject line to be the same as the previous one. So I recommend doing that. You can also change it to a different subject line. It'll basically send as a different email. If you just leave it the same as the previous one, then it'll basically be more of like a reply to that email, that initial email that you sent. So I would just keep it as is. And now we're going to bring over the second email. So I'm going to format this. Okay. And then same process, we're going to update our variables. Okay, awesome. So we're just going to then add the rest of the other emails. And then in terms of setting up when to send out these sequences, we would recommend just doing every 2 days for you to do a follow-up. Or you could change it between 2 to 3 days. So that way it looks more like someone is actually taking their time to, wait it out before you get a reply. So change between 2 to 3 and we should be good. All right, I'm going to save this. You can also create what's called variants. So this is basically A/B testing the different emails. So if I click on this, I can basically write out a separate email that I want to test. Maybe you want to test out the subject line. So in that case, I would just keep this to be the same, right? And then you would have a different subject line. So maybe instead of saying first name, can I interview you? You could say interview request name, right? Something like that. And then you can kind of see like which one has a better open rate. Okay. The next thing that we can do is we can also schedule the emails to be sent out at certain time frames. So we can say 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, right? You can also send on the weekends. I would recommend just sending it on the weekdays. So it will look like you're sending emails during normal business hours. All right. And then lastly, when we are ready to launch this campaign, we want to come over to options, and then we're just going to choose the accounts that we want to send these emails from. So I want to just choose these accounts that I already have set up. They're currently not active yet, but I'm going to just have them ready to go. And then I would just keep this option enabled where if you get a reply, then it would not send out the other emails. So keep that enabled. You also want to enable tracking. Now, if you see that a lot of your emails are either not getting open or they're getting sent to spam, then I would just disable it. But in the beginning, I would just enable it. But it's really up to you how you want to go about this. So delivery optimization, I would select this. So that way it's not using any kind of HTML. And if you're just sending emails as text only, then there's a higher chance of them getting delivered. And then we want to keep daily limit to be 180. That's fine. And then when you're ready, you're just going to click launch. All right. So that is pretty much it. I want to congratulate you for making this far. We have now successfully created your campaign and now is going to be launched and is going to start sending out hundreds of emails every single day. I know this is not a super simple setup. I try to make it as easy as possible, but if you're not a techie person, then I know some of these things can go over your head. So I'm glad that you've made it this far, and I'm glad that you're taking action. And now we are on our way to sending out hundreds of emails every single day to the people that we want to work with. And it's going to save us so much time because all of this process is being automated. And now we are really getting closer to achieving our financial goals. All right, see you in the next one.